You got any fun bits this time around, Curtis?
My only bit is that I'm sleepy. So I'm very tired. I'm a little sleepy boy.
You did fall all the way from that vestige.
Yeah, we just flew all the way in from the vestige, and boy, are our arms cold and also tired. I meant to say tired first, and then I didn't. But
I have to keep checking myself to be like, wait, this isn't snow and ice. This is crystal. It's probably fine.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Snow is here, though.
We don't know that
It's
yet.
true.
There is someone named Snow here, and more importantly than that, this is the Every FNFF podcast. I am Carl Germ.
I'm Curtis.
I'm Alex, and we have a returning champion from 2 seasons ago.
In this corner.
Or is it 3 seasons ago? I don't fucking know.
I literally don't know
How
many seasons we had.
If this is season 6, then season 3 was the last time I was on. So
Okay.
I guess it is 3 seasons ago.
I mean,
Wow.
it follows the Final Fantasy numbering where we're confusing 3 and 6, so that's fine.
True.
Anyway, it's Mrzwanzig. Hello, Mrzwanzig.
Hello. I am here once again.
Last time you were on, we were joking that 13's the best one, and you said yes, actually. So here you are.
Wait, did I?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my honest opinion is really that 10 is the best one, but 13's probably still my favorite by at least some kind of metric.
Nice.
And to our listeners who don't know, you are acclaimed blitzball entrepreneur and Final Fantasy 13 speedrunner. I think you actually hold some first place spots right now, right?
Technically, I hold first place in some categories that nobody really runs on the version that I run it on. So the records aren't really that prestigious, but I've had the any percent PS3 record on like 3 separate occasions. So, and I've been doing it since 2014. God, is that right? Yeah. Late 2014 is when I learned the run. My God. Almost 8 years.
As someone who has started learning the FF13 run before, it's very difficult.
It is. It
Yeah,
absolutely is.
Yeah, especially compared to the
Yeah,
other
we
ones.
mentioned, I think, last episode, where we're talking about some timer manipulation to farm items and such. I think, like just weighing the differences of like, is spending more time in battle worth saving time later?
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing, which is really fascinating in a game like this where like encounters are not so random. It's a lot
Yeah,
more
I mean,
manipulative.
the whole going slow to go fast thing is only really a thing in chapter 2 in the run, but yeah.
And also every speedrun ever as well, in my opinion.
See, I can't wait to speedrun Stray because there's an achievement that involves just sleeping for an hour.
I was thinking about that, like all achievements. I was like, the way that they have to do it is when you have that option at the very end of the game, because I think thematically that would be fitting. I won't say more than that
You
because
say,
I'm sure
and
there's...
time, starting in 1 hour from now.
Yeah, in 1 hour from now, you can just add, hell yeah, based all trophies.
Well, so I was at ESA last week. For those who don't know, the European Speedrunner Assembly, which is kind of the European GDQ, but not nearly as big in terms of reach. And that's in Sweden. And there was a run there. I forget the name of the runner, but they were running an NES Home Alone game. And apparently there's just a way where after like 13 minutes or so, the game will just end. I'm not entirely sure how that's meant to work, but the way they did the run was essentially they got into place and then they just had another NES on which he was going to try to finish as many other games as he could within the time that it took him to get a tied world record in Home Alone.
That is brilliant. That is so good.
So I think he got finished like a dozen games or so in that time,
amazing.
just like really, really short ones.
I can't remember if that's the Home Alone game that I played. It might have been for Sega, not NES, but it was really awful. It actually might have been for NES. All I remember is if the wet bandits caught you, they would pick you up and put you on a hook, and then you had to like squirm out by button mashing as they fill the house that you're in with water.
Wow.
Yeah, that last part really took a turn.
It's very canonical to the movie if you've seen it. So
I hope they add the bandits and Kevin McAllister to Dead by Daylight because they already have the hanging you on hooks part. So.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing. Yeah, I thought you were going to say multiverse. I was like, I always wanted to see if a child version Macaulay Culkin could beat up LeBron James. That doesn't sound anything like Final Fantasy XIII, though, which is what we are here to talk about. Last week, we had a whole bunch of flashbacks. Very cool,
we had one
very
fight.
touching. One fight, minutes of gameplay, if I remember correctly. But if
5 stars.
yeah, we all got 5 stars.
It's 1 minute if you're me.
Exactly. But yeah, all of our party saw flashes of what we can assume is their focus, and they fell from the vestige. And
It's not very focused, ironically.
yeah, it's kind of blurry.
We got dated tribal tattoos.
It's true.
And then we had a flashback to a very sweet Sudeki Dene thing with Snow.
Mm-hmm.
Which made me realize that, like, of course, like, in battle, Snow is kind of the one who's out of his element and may be kind of problematic, but in, like, emotional moments, like, Lightning is the factor. Like, we don't want to fuck around we don't want to get her involved in this. This is going to get messy.
Mm.
So, like, as long as life and death is not an issue, Snow seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
But right now it seems very life or death, so he sucks.
But Snow comes to from his flashback, his very touching flashback of when he got engaged, and he just kind of is reaching up and he goes, Sarah, and we are in a new location, and it's real cool looking.
We're in a new location. That's an old location, but it looks different.
Oh.
Which is sick.
Yeah, we're on the floor of the last area.
Yeah. We were saying, like, the hanging edge below it was water. It's no longer water. It's crystal now.
It is all crystallized. It looks like a beautiful painting, and it looks cool as hell. And we can kind of see in the distance I think it's the fal'Cie, right? Or the vestige. Just kind of sticking out.
Yeah, the T-pose and vestige.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's real cool.
We still have no idea how big it is in comparison, but I'm assuming it's quite large considering there was an entire dungeon inside of it.
A whole
Right.
cloister.
Unless
the
it's
area,
like a TARDIS.
The area we're in now looks real cool because the sort of lake or whatever it is, well, like, they call it Lake Bresha, that we're on now, since it got all like storm, windy, wavy. I don't know what. It's not like a flat surface.
The seas were heaving.
Yeah, exactly, because
French, all of Hanging Edge fell into it at the same time that it froze. So
right.
Everything
so
is
it's
completely in. It's very turbulent.
It looks like
frame.
the famous painting that I'm sure everyone might not know it by name. I didn't know it by name until
The Great Wave.
Yeah, the Great Wave off Kanagawa.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very reminiscent of that, with some of the waves that were created from the falling vestige being suddenly crystallized. It's very beautiful.
Yeah. This, for my money, is like the prettiest area in this whole game.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here.
Maybe because there's like less. It's more, not really organic, but it's very elemental, very pure.
Mm.
I think it's refreshing too, coming off of PS2, where a lot of areas were usually either like a different kind of green than the green we saw in the last area, and a lot of brown in a lot of instances. So seeing this vibrant blue is a really nice change of pace, I think.
Yeah, we were in green, and then we were kind of in a gold area, and now we're in a blue area.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I definitely remember when I saw this game when it first came out, because I think this is the only Final Fantasy I've ever actually bought on release until this year when Stranger of Paradise came out.
Also a series of corridors.
Yeah, but at the time, the gaming industry was very much in love with its realistic brown graphics phase.
Yeah.
So when I saw the trailers for this game and all the pretty, actually colorful areas, that was something that I was like, okay, now this is what I want.
Even the box art was just white with lightning on it, which I think in its own way was very striking because of just how kind of bold and clean it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of
a departure from the series in general, where it's usually just the title with the little logo around it. Which they do.
Like 12 had like I think all of the
12 had a bunch of them. Yeah, it had like the whole party, I think, and it was kind of brownish, at least in the US releases of it. And 10 had Titus in like Besaid in like the water holding Brotherhood, I think, if I remember correctly. So
they all kind of felt like almost like film posters in a way.
it was a nice like departure from that and kind of a return to form as well, because instead of having, you know, lightning in a scene like it was Titus in a scene, or like the whole party, it was just lightning on the white background, which is more reminiscent of the older logos.
Right. I think for 10 and 12, the ones we got here were still just the logos, but that might have just been a difference with Europe.
That's very cool. We're already talking about differences. Nice.
So anyway, so the party wakes up.
Do you play it? I'm actually curious. Are you a native English speaker?
No, native Dutch speaker. Here it is, by the way.
Is there a Dutch translation?
Is there a Dutch translation of the actual games? No, there's not.
Or should I say, which version did you play when it came out? Or which language do you typically play
in English. I played it in English, yeah. No, in the Netherlands, they don't really translate most media unless it's for, like, young children. Even Pokemon wasn't translated, actually, which you'd think it might have been, but no. So, yeah, video games pretty much are almost never translated.
Interesting.
Kind of tracks with Pokemon, because I know they were very famously against localizing and translating at least the names of the Pokemon, because they were like, okay, we got 151 of these things, and we don't want to have...
They did it for like Germany and France and
yeah,
such.
there was the French translation of that was very kind of controversial, because when they localized it to English and translated it, they were very like, no, you cannot name this thing this, you cannot say this, you cannot make this joke. And then when it got to France, they were just like, yeah, dude, do whatever the fuck you want, that's fine. Like, the only reason they went with the French,
or whoever was in charge of it was like, I won't tell if you won't.
I think they were just going to use the English translations and localize those everywhere, but they pointed out that one of the Pokemon's names sounded like fart ass or shit fuck or something in French, and they were just like, we can't do that, we have to, you know,
we don't want another boober on our hands.
Yeah, we don't want boober.
They stole Pidgey being pee-pee from us, though, which would have been great.
And Spearow being Brittany from us.
Oh, really?
Free Brittany. Yeah, the English...
The nickname, right?
Yeah, the nickname of...
Or no, it was in the game.
In Japanese, Pidgey is pee-pee. I'm always like...
Anyway, yes. So, the gang wakes up.
Right. And they're all kind of like looking at their surroundings. And they wonder how they could have survived the fall, right? Because it was like a long way up when they were still in the vestige, and they're not even inside of it anymore. So, like, presumably they have just fallen all that way, like hundreds of feet to the ground below, right?
Yeah.
And Snow immediately is like, oh, it's Sarah. Sarah absolutely saved us with a miracle, right? And like, as he's saying this, like, Lightning is about to get just like up in his face about it and be like, what the fuck do you know, you son of a bitch?
Yeah, and before that, Saz was kind of like, hey, how did we survive? This must have been like the Fal'Cie. Like, did the Fal'Cie do all this? Like, did it turn everything in... He calls it Lake Bresha as well. And it's just like, how did this turn to crystal? It must have been the power of that. And then Snow's like, I know who it was. It was my cool wife.
But as Lightning's getting like ready to get going on him, a big chonky Seath kind of like comes out from behind one of the frozen waves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they recognize it and they get ready to fight. And Snow runs up to it and he's like, oh, watch out. And he punches it, but has like a Dragon Ball Z energy punch that he hits it with and like sends it flying. It's real cool.
The Seath is about to attack Lightning like with a big overhead, like who was it? Andre the Giant, who had that move that he would just like punch people on the top of the head and knock them out. He's doing that, and Snow blocks it. And as he's doing that, we get a zoom in to the brand on his arm, and it kind of starts glowing blue. And then he gets this Dragon Ball energy punch and just like decimates this thing.
Yeah, right.
Big ol' undercut. Yeah.
And he's shocked by this. This wasn't like him knowing what he was doing. He's actually like, "What? How did I do that?" And then they're like, "Oh yeah, you used magic. You used the power."
Yeah, we didn't need a whole Tobey Maguire montage of him trying to figure out how his webs work.
Go web, go.
Hope's the one who's like, you used magic. We're Lassie now. The Fal'Cie cursed us. And he's like screaming, like, while more Seath are kind of like pouring in.
Oh no, is Hope going to be like the Waka who's just like racist against Lassie? Or against Lassie?
Perhaps he will be.
Yeah, kind of. But also, like, even more than in 10, basically everyone is racist against Lassie. So.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. It's just become, I mean, It's propaganda, it seems like, right?
It's indoctrination. I was kind of thinking about this more and more as I was like listening back to older episodes, and just like, yeah, you can kind of understand he's young. He only goes by what he's been taught in the world, and everyone thinks this, like enemies of Cocoon and all of that. So of course
his family was on vacation, so he's probably some
and his life
middle
was
or high upper class, right?
His life was completely uprooted. It's not like Waka, who was just like old enough to know better but dumb enough to not give a shit.
Just put that on a t-shirt. Old enough to know better,
just like
dumb enough to not care.
Just like a stock transparent background image of Waka giving like a thumbs up.
But we are placed in a battle, and then we are introduced to the paradigm system.
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness!
I remember being extremely intimidated by the system when I played the demo of this game, like when I had a PS3. And now I'm like, okay, this rules. This is just like calling shots in like football or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the part of Madden that I always skipped. Or not Madden, I never really played Madden. I mean, the part of NFL Blitz that I always skipped. And I was just like, just throwing a Hail Mary pass, baby, and I'm tackling everyone.
But yeah, we're in a tutorial battle with Snow, Lightning, and Vanille.
The Dream Team.
Dream Team. All the adults, except for Saz.
So paradigms. We've brought our paradigm expert on. So Mrzwanzig, would you like to give us a quick breakdown of the paradigm
system? Give us your 20 cents on your paradigm.
Oh, I can give you all of the cents on this. So the paradigm system is really the main reason why I fell in love with this game. And from the trailers already, I was like, this system looks really fun and strategic to use, and it was. So the way it works in principle, the game gives you a little tutorial here. It kind of elucidates some parts of it later on, but the gist of it is your party has up to 6 kind of party compositions.
But we start with, I think, with only 2 right now, right?
Yeah, I think in this fight right now, by default, you only have 2 of them set up.
And those are Commando and Ravager, right?
No, I think the paradigm systems, not the jobs.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right. So there's a distinction between paradigms and roles. So a paradigm is a configuration of roles for all of your party members.
Right.
So right now we are default in Relentless Assault, which I think is basically just says everyone attacks, right?
Yeah,
Relentless Assault is a Commando role and 2 Ravager roles.
Correct.
Ravager.
Yeah, the paradigms all have little names, which I could probably tell you what most of the names for at least the useful ones are. But,
all right, what's Bully? What's the jobs for Bully?
Sinsab.
Yeah.
Well, 2 of which we don't have yet, by the way.
That's true, yeah.
We don't have access to all roles at this point. There's going to be 6 in total eventually. In this chapter, we're only going to get access to 4 of them. So I guess we should quickly go over what the different roles do, or should we talk about what the...
Yeah, during the tutorial, we do get a quick glimpse of the bottom. So where we normally would have our 3 health bars, I think we do get a glimpse at what their roles are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the default right now is Lightning is Commando, which says build attack chains more easily with enhanced strength. Then Ravager, which is both Snow and Vanille, says charge enemy chain gauges with concentrated attacks.
So basically, it makes your party, because as we spoke about in previous episodes, this isn't like a traditional Final Fantasy game where you like control everyone in the party and say like, you throw a potion, you do this. It's like you only control the party leader. So we're only controlling Lightning. And this essentially makes Snow and Vanille assets to Lightning in whichever role you want to apply them. And for the Commando, they're going to help build a stagger chain against these enemies. So you just kind of relentlessly attack, and they're going to help you get the most bang for your buck out of these attacks.
It's actually kind of funny because, like, if I were to describe Commando, I would say that it doesn't build chain very well, but it keeps chain from going down. Like it slows the chain loss, because Ravager, now that builds chain like quick.
Right.
Yeah.
And does each of these roles kind of have their own, I think we'll find out, it has like their own skill tree? that we can apply to?
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get to that.
So it's like managing a full party of Skyrim protagonists.
Hmm.
It's really cool. It's a bit overwhelming, especially with how fast paced the battle is.
Definitely.
So when I was kind of first going through it, I'm like, okay, this is them throwing a lot of information at us and explaining it very succinctly, and it makes sense in context. But then when you kind of start doing it, you're like, fuck, what am I supposed to be doing? And then like you're still trying to attack and stuff, and just it's very easy to just kind of like not do it correctly until you fail a bunch of times, which I'll get to later in this episode. But it kind of just like when it clicks, and you're like, oh, okay, now I can kind of see how to strategize around this system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this battle system has an incredible amount of depth and strategy to it, but if it has one weakness, I do think that it is that the game isn't that good at teaching you how to make the most of it. There's quite a lot that isn't explained, or it doesn't incentivize you super well to learn it early on, and then the game suddenly gets really hard like later on, and then people are just like, oh, what the hell.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of a common thread in Final Fantasy games with more, less common type of systems. Like, I feel like you could even make the case that Materia might be the same way, where they kind of tell you how to use it, but not really how to make the most of it. Like, Alex in the first season we did on Final Fantasy VII, figuring out how to chain it so that he can just do like, what was it, 8 or 16 attacks in a row or something.
Right. Yeah, it's totally cheesing it, but you can like
and it's the same with
configured.
I think the biggest offender of this is definitely Final Fantasy VIII. As much as I love that game, the tutorial in that game is awful, and the system is extremely convoluted, and a lot of people would just be like, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just going to play, and that kind of works against you in that game. But I think here it kind of it does it a lot better. And I would also say that 10 with the sphere grid is also a lot of information at first that explains it, and it takes a while for it to kind of sink in. So
I'm editorializing a little bit, right, by bringing this up, but I would say, like, to me anyway, the main difference with 13 is that, like, there is nowhere that tells you how to use it. Yeah. Like, whereas, like, I guess in the other systems, you might be like, oh, I didn't know I could do this, or I didn't know how I could do this.
Well, hang on a second. Let me go through every data log, and I'll fact check that statement that you just said.
There are, like, when I beat 13 before I realized that there's ATB refreshing at all. Like, I didn't know that was even a thing that could be done. And nowhere tells you about ATB refreshing in this game. Or, like, that your current jobs or your current roles that you have right this second determine your damage output, even if you started your attack as a different role. So you can, like, cheese
that
damage. That
makes sense.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that, like, that at least is something that's not even really intended.
It could be, yeah.
Interesting, because when we get to one of the fights that I struggled with,
it just changes the math instantly instead of the next turn.
Yeah.
When we get to one of the fights that I struggled with in this episode, I would like to hear Mrzwanzig's take on it, because I know he was actually watching me do it, and I'm wondering if changing the role was actually helpful in that sense, because it kind of felt like it was, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
But right now, I think it just shows us Relentless Assault and just kind of give us a quick taste of, like, the interface before we even get into, like, paradigm shifting. Because right now we only have, like, this is like a one quick, like, almost like a kind of a cutscene battle.
We probably should go through just, like, the roles real quick, like we were saying, though. That there is Commando, which is your physical attacker. It has a couple other roles as well, or a couple other things you can do.
I need to immediately jump in here, and because this is the what I specifically have to take umbrage with here is the specification of physical, because this is kind of a common misconception that I think even the official strategy guide kind of perpetuates, is that Commando is physical and Ravager is magical.
You know what?
Which isn't strictly the case.
I have with me here, friend of the show, Ninnies, sent it to me, the Final Fantasy XIII complete official guide. I can fact check that as well and just see. But I will say that I'm reading kind of just the tutorial blurb that comes up, and it says, offensive paradigms concentrate on dealing damage to enemies, while defensive paradigms focus on party protection and healing. So I'm wondering if it does say physical versus Let's see.
Well, so
Paradigms,
the real distinction between Commando and Ravager is Commando is your damage dealing role. They get an automatic 100% boost to all their damage for being in that role, and that only goes up as the game goes on. In addition, the Commando attacks give you a fairly high amount of chain duration. So the chaining system is actually a little bit complicated in that there's the chain amount and there's a chain duration. And the duration is kind of a little bit hidden. You can't really see it super well. It's just kind of there as the speed that the bar is emptying at, right? So when you're not hitting the enemy for a little while, that the little orange bar starts to drain, and it'll drain faster if you have low chain duration. So Commando abilities give a lot of chain duration, which you can kind of view as slowing the emptying of the bar.
It seems to build a little bit too. Is that right?
Well, all abilities give both chain and chain duration, just varying amounts.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a tug of war.
Yeah,
that's kind of what the math how it works, because it's slowly going down. You're like able to kind of tick it a little, push it a little higher up.
Yeah,
sometimes it'll build, sometimes it'll stop.
And so Ravagers are your chain builders. These build up the chain really, really fast. They don't give a lot of duration, and they don't do as much damage as Commandos, but they are your investment into doing more damage later on, and getting enemies to stagger, which is where you can do the real big damage.
And I will say that I can confirm, surprising no one, Mrzwanzig is correct. The guide says, in quotes, Commandos specialize in physical assaults, though some of their abilities may have special properties. So I guess it's just, physical is not the right word to really use there.
It's not fully, like, Commandos in general do have more, like, physical Commandos tend to be better, and there are more magical Ravager skills than there are physical ones, but both do have both types.
Right.
Is like Frost Strike a physical move? That's a physical move.
Yeah, exactly. Those are elemental physical moves that Ravagers get access to.
What about Ruin?
That's a magical...
That's a magical move.
That's a magical move that Commandos can do.
Okay.
Now,
it's non-elemental.
If, for instance, if Snow is using a blizzard type magic, does he get a same type attack bonus for being an ice type while using? This just feels like Pokemon. So to me, my RPG senses are flaring up, and I'm like, yes, I understand this.
So now, if a Ravager and a Commando are left in the daycare, can they make an end?
And you come back so many hundred steps later, you'll find a Sentinel, which is the third role that we have access to right
we gotta
now.
call Creepy and have him make a game for us about who can fuck who in this game.
Sentinel's one that I actually don't fully understand, other than it is defensive.
It feels kind of like a support role to me.
Yeah,
it is essentially your MMO tanks. So they get an ability called Provoke. Right now, the only Sentinel you have access to is Snow. Kind of as your dedicated big beefy guy, kind of makes sense for him to be the tank. And
the himbo role.
He can provoke enemies, so they will target him. And then he has various types of guard abilities that will decrease his damage that he takes.
right. And then Vanille right now is a healer as well.
Yeah, what's the name of that?
It is Medic.
Medic, yeah.
Or if you're playing the Japanese version, it is just Healer.
Nice.
There you go.
The Japanese names are all different. Commandos are just called attackers. I think Ravager is actually like Blaster. That one's actually kind of weird.
Oh,
Nice.
interesting.
So that's the roles we have access to right now. And just to make it perfectly clear, because I don't think we've completely talked about it, but you can shift between these configurations on the fly at all times, irrespective of your ATB. You can do this whenever you want, as much as you want, without any restriction, except you can only have up to 6 configurations set up at any given time.
And that includes like enemy attacks. Like when you're in the middle of a big cutscene animated attack, you can switch paradigms.
Yeah.
Which can definitely be helpful if you see like a big attack coming in. I'm like, oh shit! Like you don't have to wait till your turn to go to defense. You can be like, okay, I need to like get my healers going right now.
I think you get roll bonuses as soon as you click that button, right?
Yeah, so this is related to what you were saying earlier about we call it roll buffering. This is kind of going real into the weeds with it, with like actual kind of speed tech. Yeah. So
no, that's what we love here.
But yeah, you can do something like start up some kind of ability in Ravager and then switch to Commando as your character is doing it. And then if you manage to do the switch before the attack actually connects, then they will get the bonus from being in Commando, which is the increased damage. So there are actually times where you might want to, like, we do this sometimes in the speedrun, where we, to get a little bit of extra damage, do an attack in Ravager, since they have all the elemental attacks that an enemy is weak to, and then we get an extra hard hit by switching to Commando while you're doing it.
The one I think of for casual playing or whatever is I sometimes will have as my 6th paradigm just 3 sentinels, and when I see an animated attack coming that I know is going to do a lot of damage, I just wait till that animation starts playing, switch to my 3 sentinels, and take way less damage for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense, yeah.
Which I utilize in this episode.
I think I might have done something similar, like kind of by accident, and was just like, oh, it's all starting to click. I'm wondering how much of...
I mean, we'll get to that fight, but yeah, they really want you to use Sentinel there.
How much of this, when you're doing like the roll buffering, is that kind of like a muscle memory thing, or is it a lot less tight than having to just be like muscle memory? Like I see an attack coming and I shift to this. Is it?
It kind of depends on the kind of attack. Like when it's something like where we do the Commando buffering of like Lightning's Aqua Strikes later on, then that is a little bit tight, because you have to do it like after she starts the animation for it, but before she actually connects, and it's a pretty quick animation, so you have to, get used to the timing a bit.
That's super interesting. I always love when things in speedruns are kind of like timing specific. Like the one main glitch in Dark Souls is very much like a lot of inputs at one short window. So it kind of just becomes a thing that you just do when you finally get it down, and you're just like, oh, okay, I know how to do it. But
yeah, and that is the reason why this game is so much harder of a speedrun than most of the other Final Fantasy games, is because everything is going in real time simultaneously, so it's so much more timing based.
Yeah, it's not like you can set it to, wait ATB or whatever.
Right, that's just not a thing.
It's just all active all the time, and even beyond that, it's like switching jobs between it, which is super cool.
Yeah. So it's very good. So we completely destroy these ghasts, I guess. These, in the last chapter, were kind of like pretty beefy and took a little while to take down, but here you can kill 3 of them now in like, if you're going fast, like 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah, and they're pretty quick. We're back into another cutscene where I love this, because I've written not a ton of notes for this episode, but one of my notes in what I've written down is for this scene right here, where after the battle's done, Snow goes, "So we really are, let's see," and then Lightning does the world's biggest eye roll ever. She's like, "Oh my god, I know." It's so good.
She
just looks away from him and is like,
it's real good. That would be a good like animated emote, is just Lightning. She rolls her eyes so hard it rolls like her whole head.
It does. It fucking just snaps the fucking like retina connection in the back. She rolls her eyes so hard.
Yeah.
And everyone starts showing off their new tats, right?
Yeah, everybody shows their sick.
So Snow's looking at his forearm.
Yeah, I think it's his left forearm.
Yeah. Silas has one's kind of on his chest.
Very cool chest piece.
And Snow turns to Vanilla like, "Oh, you too?" And she's like, "Yep, right here." And kind of like shyly like pulls up one. It's like right on her butt.
Yeah, it's like on her like her hip area.
Upper thigh.
Yeah.
Sensitive spot.
And then Hope's having none of it.
Yeah, he kind of just collapses to his knees and is looking understandably distraught. And he's just like, "Why
could
me?
This day get any worse?"
Yeah.
Why me? I don't even know you, but you have to go and attack that thing?
And he says that directly to Lightning, which is a very bold thing to do. And Saz is kind of looking like a little upset about it. And he's, he just says, just leave me alone. It's your fault. It's your fault, and he starts, getting real tense and doing the Arthur fist. And he's like, you could have, and all of this is your and Sarah's fault. And Snow is like, yo, you can say whatever the fuck you want about me, but you fucking do not talk about my wife. He pulls a real Will Smith moment and is just wants Sarah's name out of Hope's mouth.
Yeah, and he scares Hope too. Hope's like, oh shit, and he kind of falls backward.
Yeah, and I love this. He falls backwards, then he looks behind him, and he's sitting directly below Lightning, who just glares at him, and he's like, oh no.
It's really good. He just rolls over and puts his hands to his head, and he's like, oh my god, this shit can't be happening.
So cringe. But Vanille's nice and helps.
Snow also apologizes as well. That hit a nerve with him, but he's he realizes that he was kind of being a dick, and he's like, sorry.
Right.
Vanille's very optimistic. She says, everything's going to be all right. You'll see. Yeah, and she's like, off we go.
And then we're back in gameplay, and I love that there's a quick little animation of Saz for some reason doing a little muscle pose.
Yeah, he did a little
Dude,
flex. He's like,
flexing.
He flexes and says, we're all playing for Team Pulse now.
It's so good.
It's really good.
It's funny because he was immediately last episode ready to fucking shoot Sarah, and now he's like, cool.
Yeah, he's very pragmatic.
But I think he's just kind of coping.
Yeah,
he's kind of rolling with it more than everyone else.
Yeah,
I mean, at least they get to use magic now. That's kind of cool. I would probably be flexing as well.
But yeah, we start the journey through Lake Bresha, and it's super fucking cool because
clomping through the ice,
and a lot of the area that we traverse in this, and one of the things to me why this is such a cool area is that we are walking along the crystallized water, but a lot of times there will be chasms in between where the tides were frozen, but those are bridged by fallen debris from the hanging edge, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's remnants of the trussways and stuff that form bridges and more architecture kind of to the scenery. It's very neat.
It's very cool. And the whole time our party's having goofy banter with each other as well, as we're running along.
Now that we're all traveling together for the first time since meeting the Falsey.
Right. And we are able to change our paradigms now too. We can actually go in and put in different roles and everything. And I don't know, I do this. I don't know if it's the good thing to do or not. I make doubles of both of the first paradigms. So I have 2 relentless assaults, and I have 2 of whatever the next one was or whatever. So I can just oh wait, we didn't talk about that, did we?
We did, yeah, we sure didn't.
We
I was wondering if you were building up to it, but
I was yeah, I am now.
Go right ahead.
So I actually don't know the numbers for it. I only know that it's a full ATB charge is how long it takes.
Well, that's why I'm here, is for the numbers, dude.
I know that after a certain amount of time, if you change your paradigm, everybody's ATB is just full instantly, and I always see it as 1 full charge of the ATB. So if I change to a new paradigm, I let the ATB go all the way up, and then I count all the attacks that go off. By the time the last attack goes off, if I switch to another paradigm, the ATBs will just be completely full again, and I'll just get a full free recharge all the way.
So the way it works in reality is the first paradigm shift you do in a fight will always be a refresh. And after you get...
But there's a long animation for the first one, too.
Yeah, that is kind of a little weird thing. And I think they removed this in 13.2, which was one of the kind of little annoying things that people complain about, is that long animation you get on the first shift, where it kind of zooms in on all 3 of your party members individually, doing a little animation as they change their roles. That only happens the first time you shift every battle, but it's a little bit annoying. I could do without it, frankly.
Seconds that you could.
But it's not that big of a deal because you do get full ATB after it. So, if you didn't shift, you would just be waiting for your ATB to fill up anyway. So,
right.
It's free ATB.
Yeah. So the first shift is always a refresh. And then as soon as you get that refresh, there is a 12-second timer And after 12 seconds, your next shift will again give you full ATB.
Bold of them to not make it 13 seconds, but I'm here for it. Curtis, I do want to call you out and say I cannot believe that you forgot the name of the other paradigm that we have here. It's something that you should know about forever, and it is called solidarity.
Solidarity.
Yeah.
Classic. I guess I have no solidarity. I'm going to join the billionaire class. Goodbye. But yeah. So by having two of a paradigm that I enjoy, like one that I want to use, like Relentless Assault, I can switch between a Relentless Assault and another Relentless Assault and just get more and more ATB refreshes, so I'm attacking way faster. And so that especially helps when you have an enemy staggered and there's a limited amount of time to actually take their HP down. You can get a lot more turns that way.
Yeah, that definitely seems like what you were saying earlier, Mrzwanzig, of something that the developers might not have necessarily intended when they made this.
The ATB refresh is definitely intended, because I don't see why it would be a mechanic at all if it wasn't intended. But
I just mean in terms of like copying the same thing just to get that. I feel like that's a very clever thing to do within the system. So I'm not saying that Curtis is cheating, but Curtis,
but I am implying.
Yeah, but that is also something we do in runs.
That makes so much sense. It's really cool,
especially this early on when we don't have access to that many different roles and thus that many different like useful paradigms. We definitely double up a lot of the time.
You're just throwing away ATB that you could use, you know?
Yeah.
We don't go very far, but we do get a new another cutscene about focuses, right?
Yeah, this section of game is very much like cutscene, a couple steps, maybe a fight, cutscene.
Yeah.
So I think as we're walking around, Lightning is like, how are we supposed to know what our focus is?
Yeah, how do we complete it if we don't know what it is? And
since we're starting to come down and realize, we're Lucy, we have powers. Oh wait, we're Lucy. That means we have a mission. Yeah.
And Vanille says, I think I saw our focus. And
Lightning says, saw what? And then she's kind of hesitant, like she doesn't really have a clear answer. And saws,
that is how a focus comes down, people. The FFXIII, they don't spell it out with clear-cut instructions. All you get is a hazy glimpse.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they say, the legends.
I love it. The legends.
The stories from my stories.
But Hope says, he's like, oh, I think I saw it. I think I remember it. And, starts to try to begin to describe it. And Saz realizes, he's like, wait, that was mine too. Did we all have the exact same focus? Like, are we all on this mission together?
And it's funny because Hope only says towering, big and towering. And that was immediately like, oh, that's the same thing I saw.
Yeah, it was enough for everyone to be like, wait a second.
Big towering pile of fries from Five Guys.
I need to go and complete the man versus food challenge.
God, I would go complete a focus of a big towering pile of fries right now.
But Lightning and Snow
turn
kind
to
of
crystal.
Lightning and Snow, this resonates with them more, kind of hearing it in this context, and they both at the same time just say Ragnarok.
Yeah. So I guess that's another one of like the old legends, right?
Yeah, it's another thing that is probably a known term here that we have not, in context, gotten more information about yet.
Right.
Maybe it'll be in our data log.
Perhaps.
Indeed.
And then we quickly see a repeat of what we saw last episode, just after the gang got branded, where we see the
hazy black and white.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a blink and you'll miss it, but because it's YouTube, we can watch it as much as we want.
Frame by frame, baby.
And Saz is kind of reasoning it out, and he's like, okay, Ragnarok is this big beast that destroys things, and we're branded by a pulse fallacy. And he's like, oh my god, our mission. He's getting ready to say, he's kind of implying that our mission is going to be to destroy Cocoon. Like that we are like the enemies of the world, because that's what the pulse fallacy do, and that's what Ragnarok is. And then as he's like, oh my god, could it be that our mission is to... And then like Snow cuts him off and he's like, protect Cocoon and save the world. He's like, that's what we have to do because Sarah said to save the world. That's surely it. And like everyone in the party is just like incredulous with him.
I like how this kind of the logic of it is kind of like if you work in IT and someone's like, okay, you need to install this malware on every computer in this building, and then you're like, I got it. I will install an antivirus software on all of these computers. That's what my fiance told me to do.
But there's no evidence of that, and
Snow runs off to go find Sarah.
he does.
Because he realized, like, oh, right, she's probably,
She'll know.
like, her popsicle is probably still down here.
Her popsicle. But yeah. So we're again in
Her
charge
being
of
the popsicle, not a popsicle that belongs to her.
We get a party change here because as Snow is running away, Vanille says, "Hey, I'll come too," and she runs off.
Yeah. Although our party, it says battle team changed, and it's Lightning, Snow, and Vanille, which is
Oh, really?
the party that we had. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says party change, and like it changes to the same party. So
Yeah, same roles and everything too. It looks like.
It might be that for the really brief running section between these two cutscenes where you can't even get into any battles, you might technically just have solo Lightning or something, and that's why
maybe,
it says
maybe.
that.
Solo
I'm not sure.
Lightning or maybe Saz because Saz is also running around with Lightning.
Technically, because we haven't been able to change them at all, like, it is just like because immediately after that screen pops up, we do learn, having become the C, the members of your party can now develop their powers. So I feel like that's just like the default, like, okay, here's your first paradigm.
Yeah,
Oh,
here's
yeah.
your first ability to change between teams. Like we've changed teams before, but not in the field.
Mhm.
well, we still can't change teams. Like the game will be dictating the team
Right.
For
For a
long
while.
Yeah.
We get a fun other tutorial as well. That's
Yes.
just as we're controlling Lightning and running around and hearing some of the incidental dialogue of people. Just says, this tutorial explains how to develop characters in the Crystarium?
Yeah.
It's Sphere Grid 2.0, baby.
Sphere Grid 2.0, Skyrim upgrade tree, I guess 2.0 as well. This came out after Skyrim.
Let me tell you
Did
what
it?
is good in life real quick. a pleasure of mine is to not spend any points in the Crystarium until you have a shitload of points and then hold the button that makes you go to the next like sphere or whatever and listen to the sound that it makes just constantly elevate in pitch and see how high you can get the elevation and pitch to go. Because like as you unlock stats and skills in the Crystarium, you hear a little like swoop, and if you just keep holding the button down and continually unlocking things, it just goes and you just see how high you can go.
I was also wrong. Skyrim came out 2 years after this. I'm an idiot.
Oh wow.
So this was
Yeah. Skyrim ripped off the Crystarium, exactly.
Exactly.
But yeah, so like there's other games with skill trees, like even like World of Final Fantasy, where like you have like you need a certain amount of points to reach a certain node on the tree. But instead of like saying, oh, you don't have enough, you just hold down the button to see if you have enough, and it spends as much as it's like a loading bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't unlock it until it reaches that point. So you could just like, well, I ran out of AP or whatever. Or
Yeah.
what's it called?
CP.
CP Christogen points, and this is something I have some words over because I was watching Carl play this, and I saw the tutorial for this, and where
It says keep pressing.
yeah, well, okay, that's not even what I'm talking about. But yeah.
I wanted to bring that up as well. Yeah.
But what I meant to say just now is that it talks about so essentially you have these different nodes, and you hold.
It's really pretty. It looks like everyone's Crystarium looks like a flower or something, or crystal.
Yeah.
And there's like a little branching array kind of coming off.
And
of
you
it.
hold X and it kind of lights up the path between the nodes until you get to it, and then the node glows and you've unlocked whatever is on there. And the tutorial refers to this process as Christogenesis. And I'm like, it really isn't that complicated of a level up system. Like compared to the Sphere Grid, this is way simpler and more straightforward. And they be out here using words like fucking Christogenesis. Like, come on.
Yeah, it was at this point, like if it wasn't for you guys, I'd be like just overwhelmed with vocabulary.
Yeah.
It was like I just learned what Lassie was. I just like well like I was amazed that you were playing without subtitles because they're saying like Seath, Lassie, and Falsi like in different accents and stuff like this.
It's
I was like, what the fuck is anyone saying?
It's interesting kind of going through and playing it this way where, you know, I'm stopping and taking a breather and thinking about what I played and then reviewing it as we talk about it before moving on to the next section. So I kind of, it's not all just thrown at me all at once and I can kind of digest it a little more because if I was just playing this the way that I would normally play Final Fantasy games off the podcast, it would just be like, oh, I'm just going to play until I have to go to bed or don't feel like playing anymore. I'm just going to go for hours and then come back the next day or something. And it would probably just, I would not remember half of this shit probably.
Right.
Yeah,
but
it's a lot.
I do like that when you load up the Crystarium, there is a tab on the left, so you can actually select what role you're upgrading. Pretty cool. So you can invest points in certain roles your character.
At times, you must direct the course of cryogenesis. Like, what? Yeah, it's the opposite of Final Fantasy VIII, where it's very like wordy and like flowery with its wording and poetic and cool sounding, and way overcomplicating what you actually do, which is just hold X and point a direction sometimes, and you'll unlock abilities. Versus 8, where it's like a fucking dry textbook of explaining exactly how the system works and why it's good, and you're just like, this fucking sucks. I hate this.
This one you can just like sub out a lot of words and have. It would just be easier to understand. The word, I feel like the vocabulary themselves is kind of like throws you for a loop sometimes, even though it's simpler than it seems.
Yeah, I completely disregarded as I was reading the instructions to hold the X button, and for some reason I was just like, oh yeah, you have to mash X. So I was just like, and Mrzwanzig was just like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, like later in the Crystarium, when like you have to have like 1,000 points to get to the next one. Carl's like, all right, I really want those 5 strength.
It's like trying to save Meryl in Metal Gear. I gotta get a spoon to fucking mash hard enough to unlock the strength +4.
I was working on something in another tab while you're streaming that. I'm hearing whoop, 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 as the pitch is like starting.
It's literally the opposite of what Curtis likes doing, of holding it as long as possible.
Also, I don't know, like, so again, like there's nothing in this game that we can't compare to FF10 at points, right? And likewise, this is very similar to the sphere grid in the way that we are like unlocking and purchasing individual stats as we go. So we'll unlock.
And do you have to spend money to backtrack in this one, or can you just like backtrack freely now?
Oh, there's no backtracking in this one.
Oh, so if you go on one branch, you can't take the other branch?
Oh, I'm sorry, in the Crystarium. No, you can always take everything. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I'm saying, do you have to spend money to go to a different node? Or
No.
Okay, that's good.
Sorry,
I think like the sphere grid, you used to have to spend money to navigate.
That's right.
Yeah, you don't really have a set location. There's just, you can only advance from nodes you've already unlocked. But
so it's growing more like a tree instead of you going around filling in gaps.
Yeah. No need for return spheres or friend spheres here.
Yeah.
Teleport spheres.
Enemy spheres only.
I do like that it also, when you're like switching to which role, you know, Commando, Ravager, Sentinel, what have you, it also shows you a list of how many crystals are unlockable and how much you have unlocked. I didn't realize that until like the next time I played, but it's really nice to have where I'm like, oh cool, I've unlocked everything that I need to on Snow for right now.
Yeah, that's great. I was gonna say the reason I was gonna compare it to 10 is that in 10, when I'm using like the sphere grid and I go over like strength +3, and you get into a battle, you do strength +3 damage. You do like 1,000 more damage. It's incredible, like how much the stats go up. And in this game, I feel like I could put like 50 strength onto a character and get out like 30 more HP of damage. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah, and
the thing is, there's some math involved, I think, right? Because we're so low level, I'm sure that will scale to some degree, right?
In this game, your damage scales just linearly with the amount of strength that you have, whereas in 10, it's kind of like this weird logarithmic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same. It's like just getting a couple points in anything in 10 makes you way better in that thing. Whereas in this one, like you have to put a lot of points into it to start seeing like marked differences.
I think the thing that I was kind of using that really made my brain be like, ooh, number go up was the HP. Just because it's like HP plus 70, and that's something that I can quantifiably see. Like Snow went from 500 HP on Commando to 570. And it has crazy strength upgrades as well, like strength plus 18. But again, you don't really get as much of a frame of reference for that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, so your HP will change depending on what role you're in. Like if Snow is in the Commando paradigm or role or whatever it is, he'll have different HP than what he has unlocked on the other roles, right?
Incorrect.
Incorrect? It's just...
Incorrect.
Ooh, that's awesome. That's even better.
Stats carry over between all roles.
Okay, so it's just like he can only use Ruin in the one role that he's in then, I guess.
Abilities and the specific bonuses that each role provides are role specific, but the stats carry over between all roles.
That's super cool. Nice.
So even if you're like unlock more HP in like the Ravager tree, that HP will carry over between both.
Yeah, that'll just be your max HP. That's awesome. Yeah, really cool system. I'm excited to really see it go buck wild.
Well, there's a nice little save console up ahead. Do you all want to take a break?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so.
Let's go up that hill and check out the unicorn mart.
Get that Christogenesis going.
So we're running up this hill.
Indeed we are. And there are battles we can get into now. And I will say, another thing I wrote down is that I feel like all of the Seath encounters in this whole chapter are incredibly, like, surprisable. What do you call it? Preemptive strikeable. Like, they don't seem to, like, notice that you're there for a while. Like, you can get right up
You don't
on
have to shout anything.
you don't have to shout anything, yeah.
I think it's because they have one eye in front. I think it's the thing with like
Yeah,
them
maybe.
and the Swan droids.
They can't turn
Zwerg.
around and see.
I keep
'cause they're
calling them Swan
giant.
droids instead of Zwerg sand droids.
Zwerg Swan droids. Yeah. That's good.
Or as Carl has cursed me to see them as now the Amoguses.
Yeah.
the sus enemy. But yeah. So I really like walking through here. Like we said, it's beautiful. There's cool bits of architecture. At one point we do walk by the vestige, and it's funny because I've never noticed it before. I've done this intro like 5 or 6 times. I've played through the intro, and I never noticed that we walk like right in front of it at one point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool too, because when we get to the last part of this area, you can actually like look and see, the horizon and see like the entire area that we just traversed through, and off in the distance, very like small, you can see the vestige in the distance. It's
Yeah.
really cool. It gives you a nice sense of scale. And like you said, Curtis, there are a lot of enemies in this area that we can fight, or we can just choose not to, because it seems like they're all just like, again, we have the mini map to kind of show us the general path that we're on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just branching paths that lead to usually like an item that's like some gill or some what will become upgrade materials.
Some digitized circuits.
Yeah,
or
some
whatever. Yeah.
vile
Vial
fluid.
liquid. Or, yeah, fluid. Yeah.
Vial fluid or enigmatic fluid.
Yeah. What's the difference between enigmatic fluid and strange fluid?
I read both of them. One of them is like, it is unspeakable to think of where this came from. Let me see if I can pull up the actual thing while you guys
It's
are
on
so
the
good.
it's on the wiki.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to pull up. So we have the strange fluid, which is a putrid liquid whose origins are better left a mystery. Or the enigmatic fluid, which is offensively noxious fluid, most assuredly secreted from somewhere unpleasant.
Whoa.
I think with the data log joke that we've been making this season, we kind of, like, we spoke a little too soon, because the enigmatic fluid is definitely the way to go on that one.
Yeah, for the break time, it's like, well, gotta go make some enigmatic fluid. I'll be back.
Yeah, that's always bad news when your car mechanic tells you need to get your igmatic fluid replaced.
Yeah, you go to Jiffy Lube and they tell you that, and you're like, oh, that sounds bad. I better pay them $85 for that. And it's like they just like fill up your like windshield wipers or something.
And there's your problem.
Yeah, right.
I would like to see this game remade in some way. Of, you know, as much as I like that it's a linear thing, I would this area makes me want to explore it more than like what we get, where, you know, you just come up to different parts of like debris that are there, and you have like a little jump indicator that lightning will just jump over, and your body
we do a
will
little
follow.
like Cloud Strife hop up the trussway bits.
Yeah.
Which is a little skip.
Which is super cool, but like there's like this one wave,
which implies that everyone is able to jump as high as she can.
Yeah, there's this one wave that's like cresting, and it like has a cool tunnel, and I'm like, oh, I want to see what's down there, and then I'm like, oh, it's showing on the map that I can't get over there, and I want to get over there. Are there any out of bounds glitches in this run, Mrzwanzig?
If you find any, let me know.
They're all useless. They just let you go to cool places and look.
This
at
isn't
stuff.
7 Remake where you can just like run around outside the geometry as much as you want.
Yeah, now the closest thing we've had to that is there's a weird glitch where sometimes I don't even know if I want to get into it now, but there was a weird time once where I had Vanille jump up like a really tall elevator shaft, and the area that I was previously in had already unloaded, so she was just kind of standing around in the air. It was a good time.
Oh, that's really
wow.
funny. Yeah, we get some whites that we got to fight, which are like the flying Seath, that are pretty difficult to hit, but I don't think there's really too much about most of these battles, unless you do what I did, which was accidentally select as your default like paradigm the defensive one, and I was like, damn dude, the difficulty really jumped up in this, like fighting some of these, not so much the Seath ones, but the later enemies that we're gonna come up with. I was like, I was getting like 2 stars. I'm like, shit, like I'm really bad at this game. And then I realized, I was like, oh, in this battle, I can shift to the offensive paradigm, and it ended much quicker. And then even then, I didn't realize until much later on that I had set my default one as the defensive one. And I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. I made that chapter much harder than I thought it would be.
I mean, at least you weren't dying.
Yeah,
you
true.
were like full
Yet.
health the whole time. But
Yet.
Did y'all see like the big chains that were like going in and out of the crystal water?
Oh yeah, it's more probably the things that the vestige or whatever was hanging from.
I was trying to figure out like what everything was from, because on the way we see the trussways, right? Right before the next cutscene, we see the train itself. We actually like run down the train that we're on.
Or maybe not the vestige itself, but the pods that were hanging around Hanging Edge were hanging from something. So maybe they were hanging from chains.
Well, it's very, very near the vestige, and that's why I was like, was the vestige? Did it have a bunch of chains on it? I don't remember.
Actually, it might have.
there were the chains that well, I'm not sure if there were chains, but there were the things that the Sanctum was like shooting at the vestige.
Yeah, that
Yeah, the
weird
big
Laffy Taffy
harpoons.
shit. Yeah.
They might have been
think-
more like cables than chains.
Yeah, they look like weird tethers, more like cables than chains. But I think there were chains on it to some degree because it's fucking Nomura adjacent. Actually, he didn't design these things. But
Yeah, a bunch of zippers just floating in the air.
Yeah.
Some shit.
it would have had a zipper if Nomura designed this for sure.
Oh, there was actually one like sphere treasure chest thing that I wanted to talk about. It had 7 chipped fangs in it, but you can kind of see it, and as Alex pointed out, you can hear it if you're like close enough to it. And I saw it just kind of floating on a piece of debris, and I was like, oh, okay, I need to get up there to get it. And the way the minimap is, like next to it, there's like a little alcove that you can go, and I'm like, oh, so I go from that way. And I couldn't get to it, and I was like, okay, weird, let me go down and try to circle around, because I saw that there, it looked like almost like there was a ramp of crystal on the other side, like down a bit of the way. So I was like, okay, I go down there, I get up there, I get it, no problem. And I was just running along, and I was like, no, that's not it either. And then I like accidentally stood in front of the debris, and lightning just jumped up. There was like no indicator there or anything. And
I
was
think
just
I know
like-
where. I think I know exactly what you're talking about too.
I was just like, oh, I'm doing the thing I always do and just overcomplicating shit. Like,
Yeah, I believe I know what you're talking about. Like it's the treasure chest that's in a very small like area by itself, right? Just like on like a square piece of debris to your right.
exactly, yeah. It's right
Yeah,
before we
yeah.
get to like one of the one of like the pieces of the trussway that we just run down and then start jumping through.
I know exactly which one you're talking about too, because like I was just running around in a circle and Lightning just jumped and I was like, "Where are you going?" And then when she landed, she was like beside a treasure chest, and I was like, "Oh, okay, very nice."
Yeah, the jumping indicators are sometimes not clear. Like I feel like the plot important ones are spelled out for you, but the hidden areas, there's some invisible ones out there.
Yeah. There are a bunch of Seath that we can fight. Vanille will see them and say like, "Oh, that's a lot of enemies," and I think you can sneak past them, but I don't know if you can get the treasure that's there. Maybe if you use one of the Deceptisols. But it has a pearled staff, I think it's called.
Yeah, another
Pearl Wing Staff.
Wing staff. That's right.
another Vanille.
Yeah, a Vanille one, which I think just has a greater magic. A lot of the weapons that we'll find for our party here have a higher magic stat. Obviously, we just unlocked magic, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and as far as Vanille goes right now, and spoilers for a little while, all of her abilities are magical. She actually has lost access to her physical attacks. She no longer can shoot the fishing rods.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, that's true. You're right, because she only has
The binding rod, I think, was the first one.
Yeah, she only has medic and Ravager right now, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yes.
What is this weapon she's found?
It's called the Pearl Wing Staff, and I like the description of it, but it also kind of made my Final Fantasy brain be like, curious. It says, thought to have once been the staff of a monk, this item boosts the spiritual abilities of the wielder. So again, it boosts your magic. But I was like, but hang on a second, monk is a class in Final Fantasy that was like the strength build, essentially. Like,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
none of this is adding up at all.
Only he could like bend the rod into shape and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
He just worked at the weapon shop.
He was the one stuffing the pearls into the wings of it.
But yeah, so Vanille doesn't have access to her attack anymore. Neither does Hope. I mean, we can't use him here anyway, but they will eventually get Commando like much, much later in the game again, and then they can use it. But one thing is unfortunately gone forever now, and that's Snow's hand grenades. Rest in peace.
Oh, are they really? They're gone now?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You never regain them for the rest of the game.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
So we do come up on a bunch of debris that I think once we go up to it, that'll kick off the next cutscene. But I want to talk about this because I was just mesmerized by how fucking cool Lightning is. And I was just kind of running up to the debris and hitting like the little jump panels. And she does like a Mario 64 thing where she does 2 jumps. And then the third jump she does like a flip. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to watch that animation again. So I got to the top with Lightning after doing her cool flips, turned around, started jumping backwards, and just saw like Vanille jumping around as well and like turning around midair. Very funny. I'm like, oh, that's really funny. I really like this, just seeing all my characters jump around. I'll do this for a little while. And Snow just starts talking. He says, this just might work. And then like I continued running with Lightning and she just ran towards the camera, which stayed completely stationary. And then it kicked into the next cutscene and I was like, what the fuck just happened? I was like, did I break the game? But I think I hit the cutscene trigger and then you're able to keep walking and probably see Snow in the field doing something and get a
It'd
view.
be funny if the game thought that you were like lost, so it just started widening the cutscene flag trigger more and more. Like you'll get caught in it eventually. Like,
It's like reverse fucking, was it Fortnite or reverse PUBG? It just keeps expanding the circle.
No, there's a couple of points like that in the game where once you reach a certain point, if you go backwards, you'll also reach the cutscene trigger. And there's actually 2 points where we do that in the speedrun because it's faster.
Nice.
This is not one of those, but one of the 2 is actually later in this episode. So
Oh, cool. Yeah. Already discovering speed tech that makes me go slower. Let's go.
No, I actually at one point like discovered that by accident that it happened here too, and then I was like, wait, is this faster? But no, it's not.
That's great. I had no idea that would happen. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
yesterday, our friend Dan, who has been speedrunning Dirge Service, I noted that like, man, like climbing ladders in this game is so slow. Like, wait, do you think it would actually be faster to like zoom climb versus climbing ladders in this game? He's like, oh god, I really hope not. It's just like, because it might be, just because of like how you have to like start at the bottom of the ladder to climb it. So I'm just like, all these little things, it's like
yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think Dan uses keyboard for he changes the bind so that he can use keyboard to do the zoom float or whatever. But it's still a lot of mashing, and it's very time sensitive. So
I'm telling you, he needs to get like an actual like fight stick with like arcade buttons that are
like a hitbox,
faster, a little faster, and you can like really go, or even like a Guitar Hero controller.
I like your strumming, your tremolo speed strat idea there.
But yeah, like you're saying, the
cutscene,
the next cutscene begins. Yeah, and like Snow is kind of like hyped up, right?
We fight it, Ragnarok. That's the reason we're Lassie, to stop it. To keep Cocoon safe.
And like Saz is like, what are you talking about? Where are you getting this from? And he even says like, you're grasping at straws. Like
he's like, I just drank a shit. I mixed every G Fuel flavor that I have together and drank it, and I swear I just had another focus, and we gotta fucking kill this thing.
I mean, to be entirely fair to Snow, his theory does make some amount of sense, because what he is basing this on, and what he explains here as well, is that Sarah told them to protect Cocoon, and immediately after saying that, she turns to crystal.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, logically...
So, like, her focus was saying, hey, save Cocoon.
And then we saw some scary shit. And Ragnarok is known to be a bad thing, end of a world.
Right. And the fal'Cie that branded Sarah was the same that branded them.
Yeah.
Therefore...
Do we know that?
Yeah.
I
think they say that, yeah.
It's... I don't know if they say it or if they're... it's...
Well, I guess they say the fal'Cie. It's not like that.
They always said the pulse fal'Cie. This is the one that they found near Bodum. It's the one that they were transporting. So it's
okay.
She got branded when that pulse Lassie was or the pulse fal'Cie was found. So
yeah,
it's the one of the vestige that they were transporting. So it makes sense.
There's a lot of missing pieces. I'm sure will get filled in.
Yeah.
Like, what was she doing in there and all that stuff?
There'll be lots of flashbacks. Don't worry.
Lots of flashbacks, and for everything that's not covered there's lots of data logs.
But yeah, so he's like, okay, so what we have to do is band together and then carry out our focus, and then like Lightning fucking pulls out her sword and like aims it at him, right? Like she pulls it up like she's gonna cut his head off. And it's like, oh, the fal'Cie took Sarah from us, and now you want to help it?
She like puts it up to his throat, right?
Saz also brings up a good counterpoint to Snow's theory, where he says, well, okay, what you're saying might make sense to you, but we got branded by a pulse fal'Cie. They are Cocoon's enemies. So if I were a betting man,
he does say that, yeah,
I'd put us on the other side.
Yeah,
right, that's right.
Like our focus is to destroy Cocoon potentially.
Yeah, because Snow's basically like, we're gonna be guardians, which I really like that term, because it's like, oh yeah, like reminiscent of Final Fantasy X again, especially this too, like being a guardian on a mission that people in the world find you to be an enemy. Another theme that we've seen before.
Yeah, right. But the Psycom do find us after this cutscene, right? Or like, I guess during the cutscene, but after the party's done arguing with each other.
Yeah, after Lightning is about to slice Snow's throat with her cool gun blade, Psycom shows up and accidentally saves Snow's life.
There's one brief shot of like the Psycom reveal where like there's one guy, there's a gun hanging on his shoulder, all his posse around him. It's very I don't know, it feels like a full cast reveal, even though it's like just for like 3 frames.
This is like one of the most kick-ass cutscenes I've seen in a very long time. I love this so much.
So they basically like aim their guns at the party and tell them to drop their weapons and everything, and Lightning like drops her sword on the ground, right? She's like, all right, and she looks very like unfazed maybe by it, I suppose. Like she's like not feeling the pressure, and she's like,
she's more annoyed than anything.
Annoyed, yeah.
And the guy with the gun who's holding it very cockily, he's like, oh, we got the drop on them. There's nothing that could possibly go wrong. He's kind of like cockily walking up to them, and he's just like, oh, you fall off the pulse train. And Lightning just like very unbothered by it, like looks just pissed, puts her hands behind her head, and she says, maybe, like real real fucking like sarcastic, and he's like, "Are you talking back to me?" And he like very dramatically points the gun in her face, and she just starts smiling.
Yeah, she smiles.
She goes, "Nice gun,"
grin.
and kicks the shit out of him, like elbows the gun down, beats the shit out of him, and picks up the gun.
Yeah. And like during this like flurry of action that she's in, she takes out like 3 of the dudes too.
Oh yeah. She doesn't pick up his gun. She just kicks up her gun blade and then beats the shit out of a bunch of them. And it gets us into the battle because it kind of like zooms in on her real close, and she like waves them on like
Yeah, she just
come
like,
on
get
over
over
here.
here.
Like, it's so good, dude.
Every single like I was actually meaning to bring it up, like even though we don't really, we're still learning about the characters, every single like animation, whether it's in battle or in the cutscenes, really like conveys like their personality. Like she's like extremely focused and extremely like meticulous, but also like she's a badass, but she has like a gracefulness to how she moves, and everything is like very smooth and fluid.
What I really like, so I think it's like during
Attitude,
like right after this cutscene, maybe, or right after this battle, but we get the data logs for the main characters. Like they weren't there until this point, which is very funny.
We had them before, because I read them before this, and they are fantastic.
We didn't
and I
at least
love
until
them.
this chapter.
I think after the Crystarium, we do get a few data log dumps, if I recall.
Okay.
Yeah, we get one for someone that I have never fucking heard of, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Was it Galanth Daisley?
Yes, it was Galanth Daisley, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this?" And like, the more you read of his data log, the more you're like, "Oh, this guy fucking sucks."
Yeah. So we have not met this guy. We've not seen him in any of the cutscenes, but we've heard his voice.
I see. Yeah.
If you'll recall back to chapter 1, where there was a voice kind
Dr.
of.
Breen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was the guy going like, "Hey, thanks for letting yourself be deported, everybody."
Yeah, right.
That makes perfect sense.
You wonderful volunteers.
Yeah. We get another tutorial here, which explains how to manually input commands and how to execute partial command queues before like the ATB gauge is depleted or something, right?
As though we haven't been throwing hand grenades the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. I think, what a perfect setting for Snow to not have dropped all of his hand grenades when they're like, drop your weapons. If he's like, here, you guys can have them, and just like pulls the pins out and throws them, and I'm like, here's my weapons, guys. Although we know he can't throw that far.
But Carl, you don't want to. You want to throw the pins.
Yeah, throwing the pins at them. Yeah, that's the new strat. But I don't really know much about this tutorial. Is this anything that we need to really discuss?
Well,
I think we kind of discussed it in the second episode, where you can cut a series of ATB actions short by hitting the triangle or Y button, depending on what controller you have. So if you put in like 2 attacks, you can just, fire them out real quick.
Yeah, and that's especially relevant now that we have paradigm shifts, because you might be in a situation where like your ATB is halfway charged, but you want to do a shift, but you don't want the ATB you already have charged up going to waste, because like you might get a refresh on your shift anyway. So you might as well just get in what you currently have charged up, do your shift, go on with your life.
I see.
Or you might use it when like, an enemy only has a very little HP left, and you can finish it with one more attack, stuff like that.
Yeah, you get a lot of like saved time, because like the stars are all about like the time that you put in. A lot of times you can see that like, I'm like 1 physical attack away, so let me just discharge Lightning's 1 attack ATB just to get that last hit in, so I save like an additional 3 seconds on the time for the battle.
I see. So I think I didn't like digest that when I was reading it. I didn't see the utility of what it was telling me to do, but it's basically saying, hey, by the way, Lightning has 3 ATB bars now, and this is an extra feature of it. Like before, we would really only do, blitz or attack, so usually you would just be doing 2 of the bars anyway. So that actually makes a lot more sense now.
The thing I was going to say about when we were talking about how like Lightning is like really overpowered in the cutscenes, where she's like doing like these crazy martial arts moves and shit. I was gonna say, when I read the data logs for Lightning, it tells you that she was in specifically the Bodum Security Regiment, and that's like where she's always been as a part of the military police or whatever. And then we have a data log for the Bodum Regiment too, and in that it's like, yeah, this regiment has never been on a mission. They just sit around in a seaside town and do nothing. And I was like, Why is she so good?
That's amazing.
She just has like a really, really cushy job where she just lives at like a seaside resort and never works and never has to do anything.
She's got the non-combat IT position in the military.
I just like the idea that like there's like a whole like regiment of these dudes who are all just like ultra chill and none of them want to do anything and they all just stay home all day or like go to the beach. But then also Lightning's there who's like an incredible hard ass. So like anytime she's like, we have to do this, we need to get back to training, and they're just like, oh my god, please.
Yeah, what she must have been just going crazy about him.
I know. It makes her character much more colorful for me, and I like that. Like instead, she's not a hardened soldier by any means. She's just like she doesn't do anything.
She's just a fucking badass.
She's just naturally a badass, like not their experience. Yeah, just born that way.
But yeah, we blasted these dudes, no problem, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we get another cutscene. This is where we find out more about kind of how wimpy Psycom is.
Yeah,
and we do see Vanille do her little her prayer hands again.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be tougher than that. This guy's a Psycom, yeah? Supposed to be cream of the crop.
Yeah, but Psycom's an anti-pulse task force. They haven't fought a war in centuries. Bunch of rookie troops swinging around overpriced toys.
Right.
Which makes sense, seeing the way that one guy carried himself, only to immediately get owned by someone who has also never really seen combat, apparently.
Just asking cop questions like, hey, so what are you doing around here? Going anywhere?
Yeah. But yeah, and then Lightning says like, oh, those grunts might be green, but the elites are cold-blooded beasts. She says if they hit the field, it's game over. So like it makes it feel very tense. Like it's a very tense atmosphere of like, we need to leave before they send out the real Psycom, and then we're all dead.
Yeah, exactly.
But then Vanille's just like, oh, then let's run away. Ciao.
Yeah.
Which is her, I guess, her catchphrase now.
And she does she stands on one leg and points with both fingers like in a direction. It's very cute.
Yeah. I also like that Saz is like, oh, so you're saying like that, like this is no problem for a trained soldier, but like why, like I'm still afraid of them or whatever. And Snow is just like, well, at least we're Lassie now, and he's like, there'll be no problem for us now that we're Lassie. I do love the let's run away in that run. That's so good.
I do, yeah, that's really good.
Oh, even better than that, the Chocobo chick, the most important character in the party, flies out of Saz's hair and lands on his hands and like kind of mimics what Vanille just did with the 2 point, and just is like, let's go that way.
Did you read the data log for the Chocobo chick?
Did I? Yes, I did.
It's really good. There's a lot of like a color in that in that description.
The Chocobo chick travels in Saz's hair. Though it only has been with Saz for a short while, a strong bond has formed between them. The chick has no name, as voicing the true identity of the animal might trigger ripples of destiny across Cocoon and cause a hurricane in Eden. Either that or Saz hasn't thought of one yet.
It's so
dude,
dumb, but so good.
It's like the same thing like with Donald Duck being the most powerful. Like, he's like the only character in Square Enix that does that like blaze whatever besides Bahamut.
Zeta Flare.
Yeah, Zeta Flare besides Bahamut.
That's so good. But yeah, so there's another little section where we do some gameplay. In this game, a lot of the gameplay sections are kind of not samey, but like, because you're going through like new environments and you'll fight new formations of enemies, but it's more running through the Crystal Ocean, right?
Yeah, I think we do see a new enemy type coming up, right?
We do, yeah. Which I didn't get the name of, but it's like a little hopping frog lizard.
Yeah.
Oh, the Sahagin.
Is it Sahagin?
It's not a Sahagin.
It's not Sahagin.
Oh, okay.
There's Sahagins later in the game.
It's a Bloodfang base.
Yeah. There's 2 types. There's the Brescian base and the Bloodfang base. One is stronger than the other.
Okay, gotcha.
You're all ready for the Bloodfang base.
And for me, these bats were real fucking tough, because this is when I was like playing around with the menu and being like, oh, okay, well, I have this item that is an accessory that I can put on Vanille, which makes, potions more potent. She can be in the medic class. I'm really smart at this game. And then I got into a fight with these things, and I was just like, the only one doing any damage to them was Lightning, which was not enough. And I was just getting fucking destroyed. And I was like, what is happening? Why are these guys so much harder than everything else I've fought so far?
These enemies are funny because like, one of them by themselves is not a very difficult enemy. Like, even compared to the other enemies we've been fighting, they're pretty simple. But you fight them in like packs of 6 or 7, and they're really fast. And so if they all just decide that, like, hey, we're just all gonna attack lightning, you can just game over like real fast, like real quick if you're not like being very careful. So like it's very funny because I think when I played this last night, I think I died in one of the fights. I think I lost in one of these fights and had to retry. And then just on the retry, I just didn't get touched. I just annihilated them immediately, no problem. It's just because they just didn't attack lightning that time.
Yeah.
It was easy. It's really weird.
Yeah, I think one thing that is really nice about this game is that the instant retry mechanic lets the regular enemies actually be a challenge. Because in most Final Fantasy games, that's not really that much of a thing. Like in the early games, maybe kind of, but that's also because they're kind of more resource management heavy. Like FF1, for example, you really need to like space out your healing and make sure you have enough going into a dungeon and all that.
Make sure you have weapons equipped before you go fight the first boss, and then get a game over before you ever saved and have to start over again from the very beginning.
But like in later Final Fantasy games, it's really rare that you're ever in any kind of danger against regular enemies until maybe like very late game. But this game, you're gonna find you're gonna game over all the time just to regular enemies, but it's okay because you could just start right before the encounter again.
Yeah, it's really nice. It kind of encourages trying different things, and with a game as snappy and as like volatile, I guess, as 13's battle system is, it's really nice.
That's a really good way to put it.
It encourages you to be like, okay, well, that strategy didn't work, and now I'm not gated behind a cutscene. I mean, I did get sort of stuck behind a cutscene in an upcoming boss, but the nice thing about it is you can just skip the tutorial that it gives you with like one quick button, and you can just skip the cutscene right before it, and that's really helpful because it's not like Final Fantasy X where you're fighting out of nowhere the difficulty spike of Seymour Flux, and then you're just like, cool, let me watch this 5-minute cutscene over and over and over again.
Was it beat to hear that like sin is my dad, sin is my old man over and over again?
Yeah, that's right.
You would think it would be burned into my brain by this point, but I think I also just kind of like
zoned out,
compartmentalized that somewhere else that I'll have to bring up in therapy someday.
These are we fighting both? I know there's Brescian base. There also are Bass, I guess.
Yeah, I love that we're all saying base because I do the same thing and people always act like I'm the biggest idiot in the world. But I'm like, listen, I've been playing base for my whole life. I can't look at that word and think of the fish. I
always go to the pro base shop.
I was gonna say, yeah, we gotta build a pyramid and make it a base pro shop.
But there's Brescian ones. I know there's Bloodfang. I'm not sure if that's in the same area or not. Like, there's the weaker version of the Brescian.
Yeah,
they're definitely around somewhere in this chapter.
Yeah.
Maybe not this exact section, but yeah.
But they are. But we didn't really mention their appearance. They are almost like piranhas with 4 legs attached to them, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I like how they were able to get out of the water before it was completely turned to crystal.
Yeah, they're probably pissed at their home.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. You're right. They probably lived in the water before.
Yeah, they're just innocent bystanders that just had their whole habitat fucking destroyed, and they're like,
my house, how did this happen?
Do you think that they're here just because they just happened to be jumping up out of the water when it turned to crystal?
That's the only thing I can think of.
And that in the crystal there are thousands and thousands of these things just crystallized within the ocean.
Just tons of XP.
I wonder how deep does this crystallization go? Is it kind of like, like a layer of ice, like we can drill a hole in there and go fishing a little bit or something? Or is it like the entire, all the way down to like the crust of the earth beneath is?
I mean, it seemed like it just instantly crystallized like everything, and like all the waves that were like jumping up, it all crystallized instantly. So I would not be surprised if it was the entire lake underneath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just straight up gave him the Ice 9 treatment.
We also don't really know how deep it is.
We don't even know if this is actual crystal or the same like stone crystal that Sarah's made of.
Yeah.
I would assume, just because they're both made from the Foul Sea, but
presumably, yeah.
Whom's know?
I mean, it looks like ice, but who can say?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's cold or it would be extra unsettling to be in this landscape, and it actually wasn't cold, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what I keep thinking of. I'm like, it's crystal and not snow. It'd be so weird because it seems like it would be cold. I'm like, oh, maybe it's not. Who knows?
Oh, this reminded me that I did game over, and I was extremely surprised because, unlike 10, you game over just if the party leader KOs, not the entire party.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very abrupt. You see your other teammates still, running around and stuff, and then you're just like, oh, lightning's down, so that's it.
Yeah.
You think it would make sense for just like someone else to take over as leader, but
Yeah, or just like the medic to throw a Phoenix down. But again, this is kind of like a suspension of disbelief thing just because I really enjoy this battle system. So I'm like, yeah, I really only need to, obviously you have to focus on everyone's HP, but because it can spiral out of control pretty quickly. But I was like, yeah, I'm fine with both Snow and Vanille being like, well, Lightning's dead, so we're we failed.
As we progress, we get to a little like cavern where the party introduces themselves to each other, and it's not even in a cutscene.
right.
It's just in like
like incidental dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah.
This, by the way, is as soon as this dialogue starts, this is where you can run back and you just skip the introductions.
Interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
You know
what we
what's
do
funny?
in the speedrun.
If you run forward, you skip most of the introductions too. Like
Yeah, you
the
have to kind
dialogue
of
is
stop to
much
get all of it.
longer. Yeah, it's really weird. I thought it was a very odd choice to put it there because I'm like, the dialogue is at least like 30 seconds long, and you're about 5 seconds away from the next cutscene. So
Yeah,
if you don't
it's good
know, you're
dialogue,
just gonna
too.
skip most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Snow's like, weird, isn't it? Of all the messed up ways to meet, might as well make introductions. Him driving the conversation, like very, very characteristic of him. He says, I'm Snow Villiers, short stuff, and Hope is just like Hope. How do you pronounce his last name? Hope?
I think Hope S-Time.
S
Right?
Time.
Yeah.
And what about her? Says Vanille, referring to Lightning.
Yeah.
Right.
And this
And
is
like
where
lightning
Snow,
doesn't say anything.
Snow kind of introduces, as if you hadn't read the data log, and he says that she is the Bodum Security Regiment. She goes by Lightning, which is interesting because last name's Farron. First, anybody's guess. Like, I really like that, we've had characters like Squall, Cloud, and now we have Lightning, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, Final Fantasy thing. And it's like, oh no, that's just her nickname. Like, no one really knows her actual first name. I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I like it. I like it a lot.
Saz's last name is Katzroy, which is real cool.
I love that. It's a good
I
last
think
name.
Vanille just says Vanille. Maybe I didn't get all of it. I think I did, but I also hit the cutscene trigger here.
She does not give a last name.
Yeah, just Vanille.
Yeah. I guess that is important, isn't it? Now that I think about it.
Interesting.
Now that you mention it.
Anyway, yeah.
So we got a first name, and we have a last name, and we have 3 full names.
3.5 names.
So the next cutscene begins. It shows Vanille and Hope kind of ahead of the rest of the party, and Saz is just kind of like, oh, it's fucked up that we drug kids into this. Like, it's not fair that they've had like their lives torn away from them, right?
It's not right. Why'd kids have to get dragged into this?
I'll keep the kids out of trouble.
Problem with that is, you're one of them.
Hey,
So interesting note. I won't talk about it here just because we haven't gotten to it in game. But I'm going to dip on into the manual again and let you know that it looks like it does have Vanille's full name.
Oh, does it? All right.
Yeah.
Well, it shouldn't mean anything right now to you. So
No, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but just again, it's interesting how much data is there that's outside of the
Vanille
just-
J. Simpson.
yeah. But what the J stands for is anyone's guess.
Jay. And then Saz is like, maybe we should have left dealing with the Fal'Cie to the Sanctum because like we've relied on the Fal'Cie for everything else. And I think this is some good like world building here and kind of explaining to us, yeah, they provide food, they provide sunlight, they provide water, they provide everything. So like we just rely on the Fal'Cie for everything. And so it's kind of an interesting dynamic for the world that there's just the entire world of Cocoon does not toil, right? They just take what the Fal'Cie gives them, right?
Yeah. What notably the Sanctum's Fal'Cie gives them. So all the food, water, and stuff. It's like that is not the Sanctum providing, mutual aid to the people there. It's something through the Fal'Cie that they have.
Right. And actually, I think at this point, data logs open up for Eden and Fal'Cie. as well.
Interesting, yeah.
Because I wrote down some of them in my notes as well because I thought they were kind of interesting. That it names Eden as both the capital and the Foul Sea that's in charge of Eden as well.
Yeah.
And it kind of says that like, oh yeah, Eden, the Foul Sea, mostly is just the Foul Sea that controls the other ones. Like it's just kind of like the nexus point for all of them.
It's the Foul Sea Pope.
It's the Foul Sea Pope. And it says when it comes to like politics and governance, it's just hands off. It's like, you do whatever you want. We're just in charge of keeping Cocoon running, right?
Yeah.
And Eden is also a city.
And Eden's also the name of the capital city.
The capital of Cocoon.
It's like how Washington is the capital of the US, but was also a guy. Washington, of course, was America's first Foul Sea.
Yeah, I was going to say first Foul Sea. And in the data log for Cocoon Foul Sea, there's an interesting thing. It says including the lower Foul Sea, there are 8 million of them. And I was like, what?
Huh, seems like a lot.
Seems like a lot. Well, I guess you have to have like one Foul Sea that's in charge of beans and one Foul Sea that's in charge of toilet paper, and like you have to get all these things.
Yeah, it gets really into
somewhere.
like state and local government, where it's like the real, just the dog catcher Foul Sea.
Yeah, the dog catcher Foul Sea. Yeah, right.
I think later on in the game, there's literally like doors that are Foul Sea. Or something like that.
You gotta vote local.
Yeah. What an existence
real,
it would be.
Real grassroots organization here.
You imagine you're like some kind of like otherworldly deity, but you are just a door.
I mean, that's also pretty Final Fantasy. How many fucking walls have we fought so far?
Demon's Gate is a Foul Sea, absolutely. And the last thing I wrote down from the data logs, by the way, in my notes here, is it explains what the Guardian Corps is, like separate from SciComm, and it says that they're like the lower level police officers, but they like don't have weaponry and stuff like that, like anything good, right? They just might have like real basic shit, and that they really don't do a lot because there's not a lot of like their job is necessary, but they're still there because why not? And I wrote down AGCAB, all Guardian Corps are bastards, because it does say that they are the policemen of the world.
Wow, police of the entire world.
The world police. But as Saz is kind of saying all of this and reflecting on maybe they should have just left this all to the Sanctum and not dealt with the Foul Sea themselves, Snow brings up a good point, and he says like, oh, but you still helped us do it. Why is that? Gotta be something, which I think is also something that's mentioned in Saz's data log, where it says it's also leaving up the question of like, what is it that is driving Saz to help out in this way that he is?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
there might have been, and he just kind of walks away and he says, not so sure anymore.
Yeah, and I think the only indication we got into that is right before we fight Anima, and he says like
Dodge,
something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what's that? Who knows?
I like while they're talking, Vanilla and Hope are ahead, and Vanilla's just waving frantically, and then grabs Hope's hand so he help
to help wave. Yeah. And then in the next area that we walk through, this is where you find the pulsed vestige. You walk by it here.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. Oh yeah, there's like big ass chain. That's for sure. That is an otherworldly looking chain.
Very Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, I was trying to follow where the chain was going, and that's why I ended up like looking around and looked up, and I was like, oh shit, there's the fucking vestige. Okay, I never noticed.
And yeah, you were saying Carla is a very 10 in terms of design. I mean, it's the same designer.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
It's a through line.
But we get to do more of that fun jump platforming where you can just see Vanille and Snow hopping back and forth.
Some Pantherons are down here now.
If you stand in the right spot.
And eventually we make our way to the train that we were on at the start of the game.
That's right.
Hey.
And I notice if you
circle.
kind of walk back and forth on the train a little bit, they'll actually mention it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, this is the train from earlier. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I wonder what else is down here, Vanille says.
Yeah.
And we find out something else that's down here.
We do.
Immediately, because we hit another cutscene trigger, and Lightning's kind of walking, leading the way off the train, and Snow is right behind her. And in the distance, she sees the crystal form of Sarah, just right there. The Popsackle.
And it's kind of like embedded within the crystal of the lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
conveniently face up. It'd be really a pain in the ass if she like landed face down or upside down or something, and it'd be very hard to spot her.
Yeah, you might not have recognized it in the mix of all the other crystal. But both Lightning and Snow are noticeably distraught about this, and Snow just runs right up and grabs like the crystal hand, and he says like, "Don't worry, I'll get you out of there." And he then grabs something, and as he was saying this, when he's like, "Don't worry, I'll get you out of there," I was like, this fucking idiot's probably just gonna start like hitting it or something, like just joking, like just stream of conscious being like, this dude's so dumb, he probably thinks he can just like break her crystal off of the thing, like hopefully not breaking her in the meantime. But he literally just grabs like a weird piece of debris that has, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like a big like hunk of metal that he's just like immediately starts slamming into the ground around her.
Probably a piece of like the trussway or something.
Yeah.
Like a balcony or something.
And Vanille doesn't miss a beat. She just goes right up and grabs another like smaller piece of debris, like little crowbar thing, and also starts doing it, and Saz joins in. Like everyone's like, "Oh, let's get her out of here."
Right.
We love our supports.
Yeah.
And then there's a moment where like we kind of see the scene through Lightning's focus, where we only see the crystallized Sarah, and kind of like everybody else disappears or whatever. And she just says to herself, "This is goodbye," and turns around and starts to walk away. Right.
Yeah.
It was in black and white for a second too.
Yeah.
It was really
So interesting that you said like Lightning's focus. I didn't even think of it in that context, but it would make sense for that being part of that. But Lightning's walking away, and Snow stops like working and gets up, and he's like, "Lightning, you're just gonna leave her here?" And Lightning points out that like SciComm is on their way, not like the fun SciComm that we can easily kick the shit out of, but like
not the party
ones
SciComm.
If they find us, we're all dead. So you think Sarah would want that? And this gets pretty heated here.
It does.
SciComm will be here soon. If they find us, we're all dead. You think Sarah'd want that? You think you know how she feels?
If I leave her, then I'll never know. We'll be fine. I can handle anything they throw at us. No one will die. I'll protect Sarah. And Cocoon.
Does she look protected to you?
He's like, "Don't worry, trust me. No one's gonna die. We're all gonna live forever. We are all immortal."
Yeah, and she
punches the shit out of him.
shit out of him, knocks him out.
It's so good. Yeah, she like just fucking. She came. She saw. She hit him right there in the jaw. And he
gets knocked down.
Yeah, he's like all the way down, and he stands up real quickly and is like, "No, I can save her." And she hits him again and just lays him out a second time. It's so good.
And she's just like, "What could you possibly do to save her?" And he says, "Whatever I can."
Yeah, and Saz is just like, "You two are hopeless. You just," and he says to Lightning, "You can't admit it, but you want to stay just as much as he does." Mm-hmm. Yeah. But as he's saying that, he's kind of like, Saz like gets up and kind of walks to the side and kind of like leans his back. He like rests his back up against a wall or like some debris, right? And as that's happening, he sees like a spotlight on himself, like a little like like a sniper rifle, like laser dot or whatever. He essentially sees that, and he like sees it cover his chest, and he looks around, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And he looks up, and it's the fucking first boss of the game, the big like shark tank buzzsaw.
It's the Manasvine.
Yeah, the Manasvine war mech is still alive, and but it's like missing one of its arm, and it's all.
How many times we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Yeah, it's back in a big way.
Yeah, it survived falling off the trussway.
It doesn't have his lawnmower arms.
Yeah.
But it's somehow stronger.
It is. Half of it is missing, and it is much tougher.
It is way stronger.
I love that. As Saz sees this, he's just like, no, not now. Like now's a really bad time for this. It's like everyone else is still hacking away at this crystal with like no noticeable results. It's not like they're getting close. Like
and then I like that like Snow runs in front of Saz and then says, "Stand back, like, we've got this, we can take care of this," and then lets Vanille fight, which I think is very funny.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But yeah, so we fight
this is when it really starts kind of like hammering in, like you need to like kind of pay attention to what paradigm you're running.
Yeah, this
is where it was starting to click for me, like, oh, I get it. I have to like kind of conserve resources Like you gotta know when to like charge ahead and know when to like play defensively and safer.
You have to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
This again kicks off another tutorial, which it just says the enemy that stands before you has a vast reserve of HP. This tutorial explains how to employ paradigms effectively to stagger it so that you deal extra damage and defeat it quickly. Basically, it's saying like the only way to beat this, and the game has been alluding to this a lot in the lead up to this, is you have to get the stagger up so you can just dish out a bunch of HP to kill it before it can kill you.
And if I remember right, at this point, Lightning does have Ravager as well, right?
Yes, she has. She has access to both Commando and Ravager, as does Snow. Vanille only has Ravager and Medic.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I was like, I didn't do it for this, but now that I'm thinking about it, what I probably should have done is made a Tri-Disaster paradigm of just 3 Ravagers, and then just like switch between Relentless Assault and Tri-Disaster to just build that bar a lot faster. Because like
between Relentless Assault and Try Hard,
and try hard, exactly. It's the only way I know how to play Final Fantasy.
How'd you guys do on this fight?
I died the first time.
I gamed over once. Yeah, same. Kershaw said.
I game overed a lot, and watching the footage back, it's because it would use an attack called Crystal Rain, which would
I hate that one.
Hit a bunch of people, like everyone in your party, and deal a decent amount of damage. But because I was in Relentless Attack when that happened, it looks like Lightning's like 335 HP was not enough to do anything, and I just got absolutely bodied. Like I got hit twice, and that was all it took. And I was just like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Yeah, the game took its gloves off, and now I need to figure out what the fuck I'm doing." And I actually game overed quite a few times. Like each time, I learned a little bit more what I was supposed to be doing, but it wasn't until like the final time when I was like, "Oh, it's doing like the charge beam attack that hits pretty hard. Let me switch to the defensive paradigm and
Solidarity.
Yeah, let me go into Solidarity forever and tank those hits and make sure that my HP is topped off before I go back into Relentless Assault."
Yeah, this is like I'm spending a lot of time looking in the bottom of the screen, keeping track of our health more than I have been since pretty much the beginning of the game, because as long as Lightning is alive, we can keep fighting.
Yeah, exactly. And Lightning is the only one who knows how to use a Phoenix Down until the party leader presumably changes to another member, who then is given the Phoenix Downs. But you know. Nicely, the retry here, you just get the fast retry, and it is right before the cutscene, so you could watch that whole cutscene again if you want to, but more importantly, you can skip it.
Yes,
then
thank goodness.
With the tutorial, you can also quickly skip that. So like the only annoying part about it, dying so many times, was like the tutorial pop-up that like stayed there for a little bit to be like new tutorial like incoming or whatever.
Did you know, because I did die and I was like, I gotta sit through this again or whatever, and I was noticing that it was taking a long time. I think I know why it takes so long. I think it switches to the text once your ATB bar fills, because I guess you need a full ATB to be able to do tutorials.
It was filling up all the ATB as it was saying like paradigm system tutorial.
Yeah,
but
I wonder
it
if
hangs
it's
there a little.
Perfectly waits for that. Yeah.
Well, I think it hangs a little while after the ATB gauge is filled, but still, you know, that's like 2 seconds of waiting versus an entire cutscene. So I'm here for it.
I noticed this is a good time to utilize that, the fact that the math and stats for your paradigms change as soon as you change the paradigm as well. Because even if you don't have like whatever guard Snow has at the moment and provoke up, just by switching somebody with Sentinel in during an attack before the damage numbers pop up, you do take less damage. So when it's getting ready to do Crystal Rain, or it's like where it opens its face up and shoots the laser, once you begin to see the animation, you can throw the Sentinel in there and you will take less damage. And like you're saying, it does so much damage, especially with Crystal Rain. It can just kill Lightning like pretty much outright.
Yeah, Crystal Rain is pretty ridiculous, to the point where if you switch as it's already doing the attack, you're probably still dead, because the way it works, and I actually looked this up specifically for this, because normally we don't actually see this attack. I'll get to it in a second. But apparently Crystal Rain does considerably more damage against whoever it's targeting, and then the AoE damage against the others is a bit weaker. And I think Manasvin by default is always targeting lightning.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if provoke doesn't affect that at all.
No, it absolutely does. But that's kind of the point, is you need to, at some point before it does Crystal Rain, preferably switch Snow to Sentinel so he can provoke the boss.
I see.
Right, so he provokes it. He has way more HP and defense, probably.
Yeah, well, the defense is not an actual stat in this game, but
It just depends on your
Sentinel,
role, I guess. He's the Sentinel role, so...
Yeah, being in Sentinel reduces damage for you by, like, a pretty significant amount, and even more once they're, like, in a guard stance. And there's a slightly lower bonus for the rest of the party.
Yeah.
But also, Snow has an ability you can unlock at this point already called Fringe Ward, which is an ability that reduces AoE damage as long as the attack is targeting Snow as well. So that also works on this, but again, only if he has managed to provoke Manasvin.
Yeah, so this is, I think, a really good tutorial. I learn better by fucking up and then being like, okay, well, what did I do wrong, than just by, happening to do something right the first time. So I think I game overed like 3 times here, and it really kind of helped me learn, like, oh, I see what I'm doing wrong, and I see how I need to tackle this. So I really liked this, and I like too that I went from thinking, like, in the first episode, like the first time I was playing it, it's like, oh, you just hit X a bunch and you win the battle, and it's like, oh no, there is so much that's going on in this battle system, and it rules.
It's really good. I really do enjoy it quite a lot.
Yep.
This is a game where, like, interfacing more deeply with the battle system increases the amount of fun you have, like, so much.
Yeah. So what we do in the speed run.
yeah, I'm curious.
So in the speed run, we do a little bit of a technique called a stagger cancel, is where we time our chaining in a very particular way such that we get him to stagger just as he's doing the Crystal Rain attack, and that actually cancels him doing it altogether.
Oh, that's
so we
awesome.
don't need to bother sitting in a defensive paradigm to tank the attack and then heal up or anything. No, we cancel it, and then we do switch. So Snow provokes him really briefly anyway, just so that he takes all the rest of the hits for the rest of the fight.
Yeah, even during the rest of the fight, it's always using that tail laser just constantly.
Yeah, so we pretty much don't even need to like heal in the run during the fight, and we kill him in under a minute.
Attack when the tail is.
That's so cool.
But yeah, that's like the first really like specific strat that you need to do right, or you just die in the speedrun setting.
Yeah, because I had a lot of my my abilities unlocked here, and even that wasn't enough to not lose in 15 seconds. Without the proper shifting.
It hurts like hell if you actually get hit by it, and it's not hitting Snow. You're probably just dead.
Yeah, my battle duration was only 58 seconds off of the speed run time.
Off the world record.
Off the world record. No, I got 5 stars, and my the target time is 3 minutes and 48 seconds, which might be the highest that we've seen so far, which would make sense.
It is really satisfying seeing that stagger gauge go up to like 600 or 700.
Yeah,
embarrassingly, I did not record it or take a picture, so I don't remember what I got. I'm so sorry, everybody.
I'm sure you got 59 seconds and 6 stars.
I got 1 minute and 9 seconds. Nice.
That's pretty fast.
Nice. That's really cool that you can use the stagger to like cancel an attack. I was kind of thinking that I would have to do that for like the Crystal Rain until I realized, oh yeah, if I'm in defensive, it hurts a whole lot less. And it's not just immediately owning lightning.
Yeah, I think when I beat it, I did do the cancel, but not on purpose. I think I was just like, oh, thank God.
Also, by the way, now that we're in a bit of a longer battle, there's one other mechanic that I really wanted to explain today, because it's kind of handy to know, and the game never tells you it exists. So this is going to change your life if you don't know about it.
Let's see if I even know it.
So, did you know about repeat?
No.
So, do you hate having to queue up the same queue of 3 attacks every turn when that's all you want to be doing anyway?
I sure do.
Well, you could probably be using auto battle, but in some situations you want to do a very specific set of actions and you want to keep repeating it, and auto battle isn't giving you those actions. So there's actually a handy feature where you can repeat the last action that you took in the role you're in.
This fucking game.
Yeah. So how do you do this? You have to hover over the abilities in your menu, hold right, and then press X. Holding right turns the abilities command into repeat.
Oh my god.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I did not know this until I started learning the speedrun, because the game does not tell you.
I am frantically looking through the manual now to see if it mentions it anywhere.
I was reading the manual the other day to try and find if it mentions anything about this, and I mean, I have it in Dutch because they did translate the manual.
Here it is.
Nice.
And I do think it mentions it, but it doesn't tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
It is in Battle Basics, apparently.
Oh, okay.
In their data log.
The damn data logs.
It says, by pressing right at the abilities command, you can select repeat, which keys up the last set of abilities used.
Yeah. That's a pretty handy feature, especially once you're like later in the game and you've got slightly more complex abilities, or you want to like cast the same set of buffs on all your party members, stuff like that.
Oh, that's a good point. Because
it's really good for that.
Especially, if you are controlling the role of a synergist or saboteur, which we don't have yet, the game, when you auto battle, it always wants to pick one that doesn't make sense. Where I'll have like a Ravager out and it'll be like, what if we increase their strength with the buff? And I'm like, no, I don't want that one.
That's definitely the role that is most suited to like taking direct control of.
Yeah.
And the repeat command will definitely help you in that. So
That's
there
amazing.
you go.
That's extremely helpful. Yeah, I'm not seeing it anywhere in here either. I do see Battle Basics and it says stocking commands. So you would think it would be in this section, but it's just not. It just tells you, what we already know about it.
So case in point about this game being really good, but not explaining itself very well.
Yeah, my god.
It's not just the lore.
This is the Konami code of 13.
Has anybody tried the Konami code yet?
Oh my god.
Who knows?
That's how you unlock Knight of the Round.
So we beat the war mech. Does it have any post-battle animation? I think it's just gone, isn't it?
No, I think it's just you do the last hit and then it shows you your results screen. It it becomes like
it disintegrates.
It disintegrates. It's like, the Thanos snap.
We cease to worry about it and it's gone. So we're basically back to the argument that Snow and Lightning were already having, right? Where he's like, I can't believe you're leaving. And Saz is like, look, we want to help Sarah too, but like without tools, we'll be digging for days and the army's going to be here any minute. Like we need to keep going. And then he just goes, for now. Like he's trying to like reassure Snow that like, we do care. We can come back, but everybody's going to get killed if we stay here right now. Like you need to realize that. And Snow's like, oh, so I just abandoned her and saved myself, right? Like he's like getting a little indignant.
What about your focus? What happened to banding together and saving the world? Isn't that what you promised? Now you want to forget it all and die right here? Snow, you're nothing but talk.
Like, I love it. And she like walks by him when she says that. And Snow's like, Lightning, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll finish this focus and I'll keep Sarah safe. That's my promise. And then she just starts walking away from him and goes, yeah, great job so far.
Yeah, which
like,
is so
oh my God.
brutal.
Like pressing the air horns and shit like that. Owned.
Yeah, like a lot of people are rightfully so enamored with Lightning and they're like, oh, I wish I was with Lightning or something. I'm like, I love Lightning as a character. I would not want to fucking be around her.
Oh, I know, I love her because she's right.
She knows how to like go for the throat, and she knows exactly what she can say to deal the most damage to you emotionally, and she has no qualms just like busting that out. And I'm just
Crystal
like,
Rain only does like 1/10 of the amount of damage that Lightning does with her words.
Yeah, exactly. Just brutal.
Good.
But yeah, like with Snow's whole thing of being like, oh, I'll finish my focus and keep Sarah safe. That's my promise. I thought he was going to be like, that's why I'm coming with you. But no, he just goes right on back to digging her out.
Yeah, and he kind of like has like a goodbye to all the different party members, right? Like Saz pats him on the back and says, "Stay out of trouble," and then Vanille doesn't know what to say, and so Snow's just like, "Oh, get going, I'll see you later." And she goes, "Oh, okay," and then she runs on. And then Hope wants to say something. He's like,
Yeah, he's
Snow.
He stops, but then goes back for a second.
He's chomping at the bit to just finally say what he's been working up for like 3 episodes to say.
Right. And Snow, like, oblivious to that, is just like, "Oh, just save it for next time, kiddo. You know, you'll get left behind if you don't go right now." And he even says, like, "It's okay. Light'll take care of you." And I like that, like, he calls lightning Light, which I think is very funny. It's very cute.
Yeah.
And he says, "We'll meet again." And Hope goes, "Yeah, count on it."
I love it too because Snow's like smile is so like, "Oh, this kid's probably gonna thank me for all the hard work that I've been keeping him." Like he's so like he's like, "You don't have to thank me, kid. Just get on going. We'll talk next time. See you later, kid." And it's like he's like, "I want to eviscerate you even harder than Lightning just did."
I know. I feel
He
like
just keeps digging his own grave. Like the more and more he says to Hope.
I know.
He's just
Dude,
too
I
dumb,
love
dude.
what Hope says there, though. I think it's so good. Where he's just like, "Oh, we'll meet again," and Hope's just like, "Yeah, count on it." And I'm like, "Oh, it's so good."
Snow is not very good at reading the room. He's just like, "Man, everyone loves me. I bet they're going to be bummed that I'm staying behind." Like, shut the fuck up.
It's awesome.
It's very Game of Thronesy, like just like memorizing the names of people you need to kill.
Yeah.
next, like, "Oh, once I get the same room as this fucker."
I do like that. That is the end of the cutscene, and when we control Lightning again, we can just run back to where Snow is, and we just see him like sitting there hacking away at the ground with that little metal piece of trust away.
What if we just wait? Maybe he'll get him out.
He does. Yeah, just wait. It's like Metal Gear Solid 3, where you can just set the game clock ahead 100 years, and it's complete.
Battle team has changed. We now have Lightning, Vanille, and Saz.
The Dream Team.
So, is that where we wanted to cut it today?
I think
so. Yeah.
That seems right to me.
We went a little long. We're getting real inside baseball. Thank you so much, Mrzwanzig, for schooling us today.
Yeah, no problem at all. Like, I have been pretty much since the first time I've been on, I have been knowing in the back of my mind that this, specifically the start of Chapter 3, would be the episode that I had to be on for, so I could tell you guys about some of the basic mechanics, because, like, I love this game. I know it's not perfect, and especially with the whole, like, it doesn't explain itself that well. And I want you guys to have a good time with it. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, Curtis kind of knows most of the basics. So he could kind of guide you guys a little bit.
But that repeat function, who knew?
I want people to have a good time with this game. So I want people to understand how it is good and how you can get the most out of it. Because I really think that the best way to enjoy this game is you really need to know what you're doing to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I am definitely of the mindset that I like a challenge, and I like when things are not as conventionally the same sort of like play style as other games. So I am all about this, but having that information is also like, I would probably go through the whole game without ever knowing about repeat.
Yeah.
It really feels like this game gives you what you put into it. Because I kind of would rather it dig into all these like little background info, whether it's the lore or the gameplay, on my own time instead of it just trying to like force feed it to me.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way, and I get that that's not really the style that a lot of people like out of video games. So hopefully, if people, I know there's a lot of people who really don't like this game, but hopefully if they're listening to this season, they're getting a lot more out of it than when they played through it. They're, you know, maybe it's starting to make them want to play it a little more now that they know a little bit more, or maybe it'll just be like, oh, cool, I never knew this, and this about the game, and hopefully it'll improve their opinion on it.
Yeah, and if anyone listening has any questions or like is playing this game or has tried playing this game and has had trouble getting into it for like mechanical reasons, by all means hit me up, because, you know, I love talking about this game. I know a fair amount about it, I would say. I am open.
I've mentioned before that it has been a blast watching you kind of walk Ninny through
Yeah,
speedrunning.
right.
It's really fascinating seeing instead of just someone reading off a sheet, just actually having two people, like one person kind of training the other person. It's cool learning about how this game works.
Yeah, that's something I'm doing as you guys are doing the season. I'm going to be teaching Ninnies the speedrun because he's like trying to learn all the games, and he's taking this opportunity to learn this, which is a bit of an intimidating run. So we're taking it slow and kind of going at the podcast pace through it. Which
I mean, that's cool though. That's like, I feel like if you had like a whole week to practice every little like half chapter, you'd probably be pretty good at it.
Yeah, we got Coach Mrzwanzig.
Hell yeah.
This game does seem like, compared to other like Final Fantasies, easy to have repeatable results because of how there's no random encounters.
Right. I mean, enemy behavior can still be a little bit random in the way they move sometimes,
right.
But yeah, you can dodge basically everything.
Were you saying or someone saying that there's a way to kind of force preemptive strike using the camera somehow?
Not necessarily force preemptive strikes, but there are times where we intentionally point the camera down toward the floor so like enemies aren't on screen, and that sometimes messes with their behavior so they don't move when they're meant to, and sometimes that gives us advantageous positioning. There's cases where enemies just don't move into their position at all. Like there's one very specific case in chapter 2 where there's a bunch of Pantherons that kind of start away from their battle zone and then they kind of run towards it as you're coming up to it. But if you're not looking at them, they just don't move there at all until you're already basically past their battle zone and they just run past you.
That's amazing.
It's like reverse booze.
Yeah.
There's lots of weird speed tech. I mean, I could talk about this for ages. I just talked about it for a bunch last week because there was an impromptu run at ESA, not done by me, but commentated by me largely. I ran FF5 before it. Essentially, what ended up happening is someone had to cancel their plans to come due to COVID, and after some shifting around, we ended up with like an 8-hour block on the second stream somewhere that we had to fill up with Final Fantasy content. So me and Kaya jumped in to run 5 and 13.
Nice.
Kaya's the world record holder, right?
Yeah. Luckily, he was on hold and in practice with the game, and I was in practice with 5, so we just teamed up and
that's cool.
Did some runs.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to plug? I mean, obviously, everyone should go to twitch.tv/Mrzwanzig. There will be a link in the episode notes as well. Give Mrzwanzig a follow. Not always playing Final Fantasy, but always a good time on his streams. So definitely check him out.
Other than that, we've got the Relay coming up again. Final Fantasy Relay.
Oh yeah, the Relay
is I believe the last weekend of August.
That's coming up. That'll be real soon because this comes out in like 2 weeks.
Yes, that's true. I'm going to be running 5. It's on the RPG Limit Break Twitch channel, as always. So yeah, check that out.
I remember you and I ran 5 together on the Relay one time.
Yeah, that was a good time.
and I started out like 20 minutes ahead of you, and then you finished the game before I did.
Ain't that just the way?
I remember people in the chat were like, what happened? Wasn't Curtis in first earlier? And people in the chat were like, you see, he went slower.
Yeah. And yeah, unfortunately, I rarely get to do 13 in the relays because I run 5, and running 5 means you run 5 in the relay
5,
because nobody runs 5.
Damn it, I'm going to have to do it so Mrzwanzig can run 13.
It's really fun. It's a really good run. Anyway, I'll preach about that when we get to the FF5 season.
You guys got anything coming up?
I don't think I do. No.
I'm going to take a nap here soon, so look forward to that. Kind of sleepy.
Yeah.
You've been working on speedrunning Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, we've been running the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game with 4 and 5 people, and we're gonna get a 6th player together soon. We did 2 runs last night, 4 players and 5 players, and got 2nd place of both runs. So that was exciting.
That rules.
So good.
How about you, Carl? You still doing your Pokedex?
Not so much. I do have also at the end of August a friend of ours, friend of the show, Mig, former bass player of Zaku, is going to be doing for his birthday. He's having a virtual lifting meet. Very, very different from playing video games, but very similar in a lot of ways. So I've been kind of training for that. It's a very lax thing. It's not, it's just for friends to celebrate because he's a big powerlifting guy. So I'll be doing that. That'll be at twitch.tv/MIG50. We'll put the, I forget if it's spelled out 50 or 50, but we'll put it in the episode notes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be doing that to some capacity. Will I be lifting strong? Who knows? We'll see. But I've been upping my protein intake and trying to lift heavier and heavier things every other day. And I'll be doing that for the remainder of the month. So
I believe in you.
The bicycling and the Pokédex is kind of taking a back seat to that, but I'll get back to that eventually.
Hell yeah.
And as for me, I've been just modding Stray.
Oh my gosh, that catchy Stray mod. Legendary.
Very, very
It's
good.
been really fun.
You got YouTube channels talking about you now.
That's true. There's a lot of catchy fans out there.
Fools.
Would you have imagined that this day would come back in season 1 where you were bashing Kate Sith every episode?
I mean, I feel like that's pretty on track for everything. I feel like anytime at this point, we're going to play Final Fantasy VIII and be like, yo, we fucking hate this game. Like, our opinions will always shift.
Maybe last season might have given him a little bit of should him in a better light than previous instances, but he's a little cuter.
It's true.
He is very cute.
Now when I play the original FF7 and imagine him with a little Scottish accent, it elevates the game.
My band released an album last week. I'm hoping that did well. I don't know. As of recording, it's coming out in a few days, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, Alex is like one of those actors that after, doesn't watch his own movies. He hasn't listened to his new album and he hasn't looked at any of the metrics on Bandcamp from last week. Definitely not recording this before it released.
Yeah. If you are listening to this in the future somehow, ahead of everyone else, order or pre-order a cassette. It's the same price as it is digital, so go for it.
Do it.
But yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Well, I didn't think of a good sign-off joke. Somebody, quick.
Alex, do you want to extract some strange or enigmatic liquid from us?
Ooh.
I just, no.
It just ends.
You just sign off with great pod so far. Sorry.
Shit, thank you. Thank you, Masashi Uzi, for the game music. This area is pretty nice music. It's just like, I don't know why pianos and like plucky sounds just always make anything sound wintry.
Always good.
Give us a rating or review on iTunes or Spotify, and you can hit right and enable repeat on listens. Maybe that'll help our metrics. You can leave us a message or text us at 530-MATERIA, and you can find us at every FNFF on Twitter, Instagram, and join our Discord. And the chick has no name, as podcasting the true identity of the animal might trigger ripples of destiny across Cocoon and cause a podcast in Eden.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
See ya. Thanks again, Mrzwanzig.
Thanks so much, Mrzwanzig.
Bye.